Well, good morning, everybody. We'll get started. Happy Saturday. Well, good morning, everybody. We're going to get started in just a few seconds here. I'm just going to check. I think I just got a message in. I was trying to find out the name of John and Paula's daughter, but I don't see a response yet. I'm going to check my email as well. But I hope everybody's having a great weekend so far. We had our first snowfall in the Twin Cities, real snowfall that is, just recently. And the crew that takes care of Susie's location had to come out for the first time. It was political justice to see them out there scraping away at the snowfall. We're hoping for more, too. We'll have to wait and see. But I'm not sure how your weather is. I'm guessing that Alex's weather probably is sunny, continued sunny, because that's what they get out in California all the time, isn't it? Well, let me go down and say some good mornings real quick. And we'll get started just shortly. So it looks like Susie was the first in the classroom today. And right on her heels out in California was Alex Alcaz. And Shirley popped in just shortly after that. So great to have all of those folks here. And I'm trying to remember, Shirley is, I believe, I know she's from the East Coast. And I'm trying to remember, I want to say Ohio, is that right? But it's great to have Shirley here as well. And Teresa and Tim from Thorpe, Wisconsin. Great to have you here also. Who else do we have? We have James Graham. It's great to have James Graham in the live chat also. Let's see here. Sarah Stitches is here also. Great to have Sarah in the. And I already said hello to Tim and Teresa out in Thorpe, Wisconsin. And I think that might be about it as far as in the live chat. And we may have others that join us otherwise. And if you have any trouble with the video or audio, just send me a text message and let me know that. The speed test was okay this morning, although it was a little bit slower than normal. So we'll have to wait and see. We hopefully don't have any issues with the live stream today in getting a good live stream feed and everything. Still don't see anything yet from John and Paula. And just tell you a little bit about this machine. Many of you have heard about the Stylist model. There's a lot of different types of Stylist models that Singer made. This particular one, like the title of the live stream indicates, is a model 457. If anyone knows anything about this specific Stylist model, the model 457, go ahead and share it in the live chat if you would. And then I'll walk you around this machine in just a few seconds, and we'll get to know a little bit more about this machine. But some of the things, if you want to share your knowledge, what size motor does a machine like this come with? Where was it made? Where was this machine made? If you know those facts, those fun facts, go ahead and type it into the live chat so that others will know as well. Otherwise, I'll share it shortly. But just reading a quick note. I'll answer this after the live stream. It doesn't require immediate response. But if you know any of those fun facts, oh, Aaron, and I've already said hello to James Graham, I believe. Good, James here. James is talking about a collection that he recently learned about. So nothing yet from John and Paula. I was checking email. I was checking text messages as well. Nothing from those good folks. So no one's jumping in yet on where this machine. I don't believe that they are, Susie. Susie just asked if John and Paula are in the chat today. They had something else going on and scheduled to meet them at 2:00 to get this machine back. I did send a text message to remind them about the live stream and also to ask for their daughter's name. But I did not see a response yet. So we may just have to march forward, and they'll have a chance to watch this as a video later. So this machine, I'm going to give you a way to figure it out. Okay, I'm going to give you a way to figure it out. First of all, I'm going to tell you that this machine was not made in the U.S. Secondly, I'll tell you that it has a motor that's even larger than the Singer 401A. Not quite as big as some of the FOF models or the Husqvarna models, but it's got a robust, huge motor inside of it. And when I serviced it, it's really built incredibly well. It's not a chintzy motor. It's built to deliver a lot of punch, a lot of power. So hopefully we'll have a chance to see some of that demonstrated in the live stream today. Although when I do live streams, I'm not really looking to show the absolute maximum of what a machine can do. I'm looking to demonstrate its versatility and also its potential. So we'll see a glimpse of the potential of this machine, but I'm certainly not going to push it all the way to the max. We simply wouldn't have enough time to do that. But again, if you want to try to guess where this machine was made in the US, I'll help you out even more. Not in Italy, not in China, not in Taiwan. It was made somewhere else. And I'll even give you a serial number in a little bit to try to help you look it up and date the machine as well. That way we'll be able to figure out how old this machine is. And again, about the motor is very robust. So I'm going to look at the live chat and see. Oh, Aaron out in Vermont is asking about the model. I'll actually show you guys. Hold on a second. So this is the machine right here that we're going to be sewing on today. It's a combination of composite and metal and also plastic. So this particular machine is really a compilation of 3 different materials. It's a composite that was made by Singer to be able to recycle the machines more easily. It's a cast material, and when you crush it, it basically turns into a powder. This material, the body casting of the machine. So the machine is not really horribly heavy. You see right there, kind of lifting it up. It's not horribly heavy, but it's also not light like some of the aluminum machines that we're used to either. And again, this machine has a good sized motor on it. I'm looking at Teresa's guess of 0.75, even bigger than that, bigger than 0.75. Alex guessed France. No, that's not correct, but the country that this machine was made in is known for French-speaking people, So if that gives you a little bit of a clue, and Shirley saying, what about Japan? Not in Japan either. This was not made in Japan. So not Japan, not France. And now Alex and Aaron Allen almost came in direct sync, and they said, what about Canada? What about Canada? Well, the answer is yes. This machine was made in Canada. And I'm going to give you the serial number to see if you can locate the place where they list the dating of this machine. The serial number, and if somebody will type it in the live chat, is J like Juliet, E like Echo, 925897. So again, the serial number on this machine is going to be J like Juliet, E like Echo, 925897. That's the serial number. So if you want to do some due diligence, search the internet, see if you can find it. I'll give you a big help if you'd like that. And Tim is saying, what about 1 amp? Tim is the closest so far in guessing the size of the motor. Just a tiny little bit smaller than that, Tim. Just a tiny little bit smaller. And it's not made in Belgium either, but that's another great answer. This is, in fact, a Canadian-made machine, as the serial letter prefix would indicate. JE, any of the J series prefixes for the Singer sewing machine manufacturing plants are usually going to point at Canada, and specifically what was referred to at the time, St. John's, Canada, Quebec area, the Quebec area. So if someone wants to try to dig into that serial number, come up with a date. It may not give you a birth date, but it may give you at least the year of manufacturing. That's what I was able to find digging into this, okay? So to zero in on the motor size now, Tim, again, out of Thorpe, Wisconsin, was the closest. The motor size is, and I'll actually show you on the side, see if we can get close enough to read it. So if someone wants to type the motor size in the live chat, that would be awesome. Go ahead and type the motor size in the live chat for this Stylist model 457. Stylist model 457. So with a motor size like that, it's going to be bigger than almost all of the vintage sewing machines made by Singer that you typically see on this channel. That's a very, very robust motor, to say the least. So let's walk around this machine, and then we're going to jump into some sew-offs. I'm also going to talk a little bit about our setup today, and also invite anyone. I want to invite anyone, if you were part of the last live stream when I read off all of those Japanese machine manufacturers in the rank order that this independent source put them in at. If any of you out there feel like you won, if any of you out there feel like you nailed it, then by all means, reach out after the live stream, and I'll get you a pair of those Guggenheim professional tailoring shears. A pair of those Guggenheim professional tailoring shears. Again, the objective of the last contest that I did was to ask you to rank or to list the top 12 Japanese sewing machine manufacturers today. And I went down that list in detail in the last live stream and invited anyone that was in the previous live stream, if they got it right, to do a screenshot of the live chat and then to reach out. I didn't get contacted by anybody. So I don't know if that means they didn't hear about it, they didn't know about it, but I want to recognize that individual if someone got that answer correct. All right, it looks like Alex typed 0.95 amps. That's absolutely right. A very, very big motor, a very, very big motor by all measurements. Let's see here. Give me just a second. Okay. So our setup on this machine today, let me setup of it. I don't use these very often. I seldom, if ever, use these. Some of you might use them every single day or nearly every day. They are the Schmetz quilting needles. The Schmetz quilting needles. And the size that I've got in the machine right now is a size 90-14. You can see that little empty spot there. I don't know much about quilting needles at all. So I don't know if Jenny, our ambassador to needles, is in the live chat today or in the live stream. But if not, if someone else wants to go to the Schmetz website and look up the anatomical attributes, there's a fancy way of saying it, the anatomical attributes of Schmetz quilting needles, that would be super cool. Because then we can learn a little bit more about the size of the eye of the needle, the scarf, the point, the shaft, and all the other anatomical parts of the needle. Because I know very, very little about quilting needles. Our thread, as you might suspect, is going to be Coates & Clark Dual Duty XP thread. Why? Because I bought a ton of it at the President's Day sale at Joann Fabrics. And if some of you did not do it, if some of you did not go to that sale, you really missed out. The opportunity to buy 3 spools of thread and get 3 free. I mean, that's hard to beat. I'm going to turn the machine a little bit so we can walk around the machine. And I think I just got a text message from Jenny. Let me see what it is. Okay. Jenny just shared an update that she's got some personal things to take care of. And she unfortunately will need to step away from live streams for a couple of weeks, um, at least, probably, 3, 4 weeks. So if anyone wants to temporarily step in and be our interim ambassador to Needles, to inform us, advise us a little bit more on needle types like the Schmetz quilting needle that we're going to be using today. Go ahead and just type that in the live chat. Hey, I'll cover for Jenny, and that would be great if you want to be that interim ambassador to Needles, because I think it's an important role. Needles are one of those things that you constantly are learning as they evolve in their design and their features, and having someone in house that can advise us and give us insights on some of the needles that I might be trying would be real helpful. So I'm just going to leave that open. If anyone in the audience, whether you're part of the leadership team or not, if you're willing to step up to that interim role, so that when we get questions relating to needles or thread, that sort of thing, we can look to you for some guidance. That would be super. That would be super duper. And again, I won't go into details on Jenny's personal situation, but it's always good to keep each other in thought and prayer. Don't you agree? So if you would be so kind just to keep Jenny and her family in thought, and I'll leave it at that. Okay? Excellent. All right. So I am going to put on a little bit of music, and then we're going to jump into this in just a little bit. I'll also tell you as well that I had a thought. I had a thought and I totally lost it. I'll come back to my thought if I can find it. We'll start in just a second. I thought that was going to end, but it just is going and going and going like the Energizer Rabbit. So let me walk you around this machine real quick. I think it's a very simple machine. And again, the game plan is that John and Paula from the Twin Cities, are going to be giving this to their daughter to use as her sewing machine. And I'm still hoping to hear from John during the live stream on his daughter's first name. He didn't tell me. I should have asked. He didn't tell me. I should have asked. And okay, and it looks like Sarah Stitches has a question. Will this sewing machine have a belt or is it gear driven? It is a belt driven machine, so it's not direct drive like the Slant-O-Matic 404 that we recently unboxed for Sibel out in New York. This is going to have a belt. And the unfortunate thing about some of the Singer designs, I say unfortunate because I think that there's a huge advantage in having a transfer point. A transfer point means, let me show you on paper. A transfer point means that, and I'm not an artist. I'll tell you that straight away. I'm not an artist. But a transfer point means that as far as the engine or the power supply for locomotion of a machine, let's say you've got a motor back here, and that motor's got an output pulley like that. And I'm not going to get any awards for my drawing. I know this. I'm not going to get any awards for my drawing. But let's say that this is the motor, and this is our output pulley. And then you've got the balance wheel up here, kind of like that. And you've got the belt coming off of the output pulley going up to the balance wheel. That's a direct line of power. But the only problem from a standpoint of transfer is you get a little bit of a lag or a slip when you push the power from the pulley directly up to the balance wheel. It's a lot better when the power is coming from the motor to a middle point, say a bobbin winding assembly, and then it's sent from there up to the balance wheel. It gives you a little bit more even distribution of power, and you lose less kinetic energy in the transfer. So I'm a big proponent of a transfer point, like on the Husqvarna machines, a number of the FOF machines, where the power is pushed from the output pulley of the motor to a middle point and then pushed from there vertically up to the balance wheel. So this one is a direct one that goes directly from the balance wheel down to the motor output pulley. When you're working with a machine like this, you just have to keep that in mind and make sure that you're controlling the speed on that foot controller so that you don't basically spin out and cause that belt to slip on that output pulley. And that's even if it's adjusted properly. That's even if the pulley is cleaned and everything else. So I'm going to show you one other thing, and it just came up from what Bill wrote out of Minnesota. Good morning to Bill as well. The other thing that does create a little bit of a challenge. Yeah, you're welcome, Sarah. The other thing that does create a little bit of a challenge with this particular model 457, and Bill touched on it before I could jump into it, which is great. It does have a second belt like the Kenmore. Pictures of it. I might have pictures of it. I've got to show it to you. So I'm going to see if I can find the pictures that belt system looks like on the bottom of the machine. Let's see if I can find it. Let's see. Yeah, that's not a very good shot. Let me see if I can find a better one. Oh, where is it? Yeah, this one's not too bad. So it's got this secondary belt on the bottom as well. You can see coming off of the pitman arm, the belt extends over there, and then it goes across the bottom of the machine to this adjuster in the middle, and then eventually, and these are some pictures before the machine was serviced. You can see all the rust on here. And then it goes to the bottom of the raceway and directs that power directly over to the raceway. So on this machine, you've got two belts to contend with. The main drive belt that goes directly from the motor output pulley to the balance wheel, and then you've got a second belt that comes down off of the pitman assembly and goes to the bottom of the machine, and then it transfers that power even further across the bottom of the machine to the raceway. So with this design, there's opportunity to lose that momentum and overspin when you're initially launching the machine. So just keep that in mind. And as Bill alluded to from Minnesota, a number of Kenmores have this design. There are some Japanese machines that were made later that have design, and then certainly some of the Singer models as well. Did anyone come up? Yeah, road bike or mountain biking. Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, Bill's going on a bike ride. Got it. Um, did anyone figure out how to look up the date for this machine? The serial number that I gave, the JE 925897. JE 925897. Was anyone able to find where to look that up? Was anyone able to locate that, to look up that particular date for this machine? Okay, Sarah put in the date. Sarah, where did? Yeah, if you have a link, otherwise I can share the link. Sarah is absolutely correct. This Stylist 457 model was made in 1961. So if Sarah wants to share the link where she found that information, since I didn't see anybody else respond unless I missed it, Sarah, go ahead and share that link where you found it. It is part of the ISMAX network, but you got to do a little bit of digging to find it. You got to do a little bit of digging. So it looks like Sarah looked on the Singer app. Okay, so if you have access to the Singer app, go ahead and look it up as well, just so you're familiar with how to do it. In the interim, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to share the direct link. I'm going to try to share the direct link on ISMAX, the International Sewing Machine Collector Society, on where you can look up serial numbers with the prefix of JE. Let's see some of the others. JA, which started in 1924 to 1936. The JB letter prefix for serial numbers, which was from 1945 to 1948. The JB series second bracket, which was from 1936 to 1948. The JC series, which was from 1948 to 1954. And the JD series, which was 1959. And then finally, our series that we were trying to find, that Sarah found through the Singer app, and that is the JE series, which was in 1961. So I'm going to see if I can push that link over to all of you right now, put it in the live chat. I hope it opens up properly. Going to try anyway. See if I can do this. Give me just a second. All right. I don't know if I did this right. I hope I did. I hope I did. So check out that link that I posted. I'm going to double check to see if there's any other way that I can push that address to you. And it's under the category on the ISMAX website under manufacturers. Let's see here. Yeah, that's the best I think I can do. Wait a second. Let me try this. I think I sent the wrong link. Hold on a second. All right, let me minimize this. All right, let me give it a go again. Maybe this is correct. Hold on. Try that second link and see if it opens up for you. The ISMAX Singer Sewing Machine Manufacturers link that I just posted. But that may be a way that you can also view all of those elusive Canadian serial numbers. Give that a go. Okay, second link does open. So ignore the first link. Matter of fact, where did I put it? if one of the moderators wants to go ahead and delete my first link, otherwise I can do it. Let's see here. Okay, I just retracted the first one so it doesn't create too much confusion. The second one should open up for you. And on that link, you're going to scroll down a little bit. And when you scroll down, you'll see all of those brackets I talked about and additional ones too, for Elizabethport, New Jersey, and Anderson, South Carolina. And then below that, you'll see the St. John's, Quebec, Canada serial prefixes, along with some additional ones that come out of Scotland as well. Clydebank, Scotland, starting in 1910 all the way through 1961. And then there's even one little tiny little group for Bridgeport, Connecticut, right at the very bottom. And a lot of people, they don't know, as evidenced by Sarah being, using the Singer app and then using another means of finding the answer to the 1961. A lot of people didn't know that this little subsection was in ISMAX. We all know how to go to the main ISMAC lookup for Singer serial numbers. All of us do that all the time, but this is kind of hidden a little bit. So feel free to share this with any of your groups. Feel free to repost it within some of your Facebook groups so that folks have access to these additional letter serial prefixes, and they can look up the machine that they might have and aren't sure about the manufacturing date. Okay, blah, 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 blah. All right. Let me go back over here. James was hidden. Let me see here. Click on that. Okay, I just restored James Graham, who was accidentally hidden by Susie. So James should be good to go from this point. Yeah, should be good to go. All right. Okay, let's jump into some of this. I'll walk you around the machine a little bit, and then we'll jump into this machine. So the answer to questions and also discussion is not only is it a belt-driven machine, but it's a dual belt-driven machine. So you've got the one belt over here that comes directly off of the motor output pulley that's enclosed in the casing of the machine and pushes that power to the balance wheel. And then you have a second belt on the bottom of the machine that comes off of the pitman assembly, goes across the bottom of the machine, and then pushes that power directly to the bottom of the raceway drive shaft. So it's kind of a cool design. It's very interesting to service a machine like this, but you lose a lot of power in the transfer. If you can imagine, when you're pushing the power from one section of the machine down the pillar of the machine and then eventually across the bottom of the machine, you lose a lot of momentum that way. So not the ideal design, but it's what Singer chose to do on this model 457. Also, good morning to Candido and Rachel. Looks like they just popped in. Great to have you folks here as well. And I'll give a quick little update without going in depth. Candido, I have Rachel's motor working, and I acquired an additional motor. So I'm hoping eventually to send you back 2 working motors for your white rotary machine. But I have one that's working right now. So I'll try to get that done in the next week or so, and then I'll ship those motors back to you and Rachel out in New York, and you can finally finish your work on her white rotary machine. It's absolutely a gorgeous machine. Gorgeous machine. Okay, so we'll walk around this machine real quick. This dual belt machine. Does anyone know what this thing does right here? What does this do right here? What does this do? You can kind of turn it. Anyone know what this does? Nobody's responding. This is part of the tensioning system for winding a bobbin. This is part of the tensioning system for winding a bobbin. So you're going to be coming off the top right here through this thread guide across the front of the machine through this tensioner. And I would recommend going through this tensioner and going clockwise around it like this, basically wrapping around this tensioner and then coming up to your bobbin winder from there, So that's how you wind a bobbin. And this is a tensioner. When I saw one of these for the first time many years ago, I thought it might be a feed dog drop, but it's not. In fact, on this machine, you're not able to, in a traditional way, drop the feed dogs. This is your on-off switch right here for the light. And right now I've got an LED bulb in there. And it pulls down similar to the Viking machines. You have to kind of get your fingers stuck in there and then get a grip on there, and then you pull it down like this. It's spring loaded, and then you let it go, it kind of pops back into place again. This is going to be your adjuster right here for determining how full you want that bobbin to be. This is going to be your adjuster. You loosen that screw in the middle, and then when you rotate this, the closer it rotates into the bobbin, the less full that bobbin is going to be. So just keep that in mind if you're winding a bobbin on one of these model 457s and it's either overwinding and getting too full or it's underwinding, you just adjust this screw and then rotate this so that, you know, it rotates in further in if you want less of a full bobbin, or rotate it further out and then screw it back into place when you're done so that you can have that preset amount for winding. And you just push this to the side. It's going to engage. Both of these controls are going to move at the same time. You move it in, it's going to touch the inside rim of that balance wheel to wind. This is going to be your stitch length and also your reverse. And I didn't have the original plastic piece that would be on here. The customer didn't have it when the machine came in. I didn't have any to replace it with. And so I put a little grommet on there so that it's a little bit easier on the finger for John and Paula's daughter as she's pushing this up and down. It's a soft rubber instead of basically metal against your finger. And this is going to have a stitch range that's comparable to other Singer machines, anywhere from 6 to 7 stitches per inch, all the way down to about 25 stitches per inch. And then you can go all the way down to the fine range and get real close to 30 stitches per inch. If you want to sew in reverse, you just push it all the way to the top like that. Okay. This is going to be your needle position, left needle, right needle, center position, and your stitch width. And there's going to be a choice of either a zigzag or a blind hem stitch on this model 457. If you want to get a zigzag, you rotate this dial to the left. If you want to get a blind hem stitch, you rotate this dial to the right, and then you'll go ahead and get a blind hem stitch. So that tells you right away there's a built-in cam stack here in this machine that generates 2 different stitches, the zigzag and the blind hem. There's no cams to be added to this machine to increase that lineup of stitches. You've got a straight stitch, you've got a zigzag, and you've got a blind hem stitch on this model 457 from 1961. Yeah. This is going to be your upper tension over here, as most of you already know. If you decide to disassemble an upper tension like this, you'll note when you take it apart that on the inside, there's a pre-calibration spring adjuster that you have to decide where to set it when you reassemble the upper tension. Let me caution you that unlike some of the other Singer models, where you can preset that tensioner and bump it up a little bit so that you can get a higher pre-tension level and you don't have to turn up your upper tension as far. On this one, you have to do the opposite. You have to make sure that when you pre-tension that spring, that it's only making basic contact and pressure against that tension spring inside of here. If you go too far, what it's going to do is it's going to do the opposite. Instead of giving you more pretension, it's going to cause a binding so that your stitching on the bottom actually is looser than it should be, even if you turn this all the way up. So just keep that in mind if you're working with this tension unit and you're thinking about what I've said in other live streams about setting that calibration point higher so you don't have to go as high on this setting on here on the upper tension. Disallow that or ignore that on the model 457 or any other Singer model from the 1960s that has this type of upper tension unit. It's going to create a lot of problems for you. So when you reassemble it, just screw it in so that it's just barely making contact with that tension spring that's inside of here. And then you can adjust the remainder of the tension by just adjusting this up or down as you normally would. Okay? This is capable of doing dual needle sewing. You only have one spool pin, so you would have to have some sort of an auxiliary thread supply going to the machine if you want to use the machine for dual needle sewing. But it has the 3 discs already, as you can see. I think it's got the 3 tension discs, which tells you straight away that it is capable of doing dual needle sewing. And with some of the needle technology now, you can also buy needles that will give you the ability to do 3, basically triple needle sewing. So a lot of improvements in the needle realm, and by all means, check them out. All right, I'm just going to look at the live chat real quick. Sorry for my late responses. Didn't realize I was watching it in rewind and not live. Well done, Alex. Well done, buddy. So anyway, keep that in mind with this upper tension, a little bit tricky. Presser foot pressure right up here. It's a nice little dial right on top of the machine, easy to access. You don't have to open the faceplate like on some of the machines that you've seen me present. And you've got a nice range depending on the type of sewing you're doing. You can just adjust it up or down very, very easily. Easy to service inside of the faceplate area as well. You simply take out this one bolt. This slides down, and then you've got access to all the key lubrication points in the faceplate area of the machine. Just like on top, you've got a bolt here and a bolt here, and then that entire plastic cover comes off so that you can service all the key points, including the cam stack assembly. So generally, it's a fairly easy machine to maintain. The only thing I don't like is that some of the key lubrication points on the bottom of the machine are nearly impossible to get to unless you remove this entire base and then slide it out of the way. And then you have another metal base or a metal plate beyond that you have to take off. So with this design of the 457, Singer did not make it easy to do comprehensive service on the machine. You've got to work a little bit harder to get it done. You've got to take off the base, which is going to have a similar little screw point on it, like a featherweight base or the Slantomatics. And then once you get this plastic base off, you've got another metal plate you have to remove as well that requires a screwdriver. And then finally, you're able to take that final metal plate off the bottom and service the key points that you saw where that second belt is mounted on the machine as well. So sometimes it's easy. Sometimes we have to work a little bit harder, but the effort is well worth it. And then to service the motor or to inspect the belt, you've got 2 screws over here, one here, and then this plate comes off as well. So you can service the motor, you can service the pulley, and you can service other components that are in this region of the machine. Okay. Just seeing if there's anything else to mention. We can look at the threading real quick. Threading, I think, is pretty straightforward. You come off the top right here, you go through this thread point, and with your presser foot lever in the up position, you can thread the thread either through the first set of discs or the second set. It doesn't matter, either set. and you bring it around. You have to then draw the thread up to pull that take-up spring up. Let me move my finger. You have to draw that thread up to pull the take-up spring up so that that thread gets saddled in that little notch right there. You see that little notch, I think. Yeah. Then from there, you're going to make sure that both of these threads are behind this little thread guide right here. Go up to your take-up arm, thread from right to left through this thread guide right here on the faceplate. Down here, you've got two thread guides. You've got one right there. You've got to come in from the right to the left. And then you've got an additional thread guide that a lot of people miss, that little slat right there. Let's see if I can get real close. That little slat right there is the second threading point when you're down at the needle area of the machine here. So get that one, and then also get this one as well. This is the same design that's on a lot of the Slant-O-Matic machines like the 401A. And I can't tell you how many people have contacted me. They're having issues with sewing, and they'll send me a picture of their threading, and inevitably they miss this last thread point right there. They miss that little thread point right there. So make sure you get that thread point, and you should be good to go. And then you're going to thread your needle from front to back with the flat side of the needle going to the rear, which tells you as this machine is sewing that hook system is going to be coming around the rear of that needle and grabbing that thread in the scarf area. So make sure that you orientate the needle properly, and you'll be in real good shape. This takes a class 66 drop-in bobbin. You can see it right there. This plate does open a little bit further to that point, and then you can adjust the tension on your bobbin case if you'd like. And remember, with a floating bobbin case like this, you want to make sure that you're lubricating this regularly. You want to make sure that you're lubricating this regularly. Let me see if I can grab my, where do I have it? See if I can grab my little syringe here. And I've shown this to you in other live streams and such. Because this bobbin case is floating on top of the hook assembly, this right here is turning in the sewing process. This right here is stationary. You've got to lubricate this point that it saddles on and floats on right here, right in this area right here. So periodically put just a little bit of oil. You can see it's just barely getting on there. Just a little bit of oil on this edge. And what that's going to do is it's going to give a cushion so that this bobbin case is able to float on top of that hook assembly as it's spinning very rapidly. You can see me wiggling it right there. If you don't keep that lubricated, you're going to have issues in the sewing process with thread feed and stitch quality and everything else. So periodically, I would say about every 6 hours of sewing, put just a little vapor of sewing machine oil on the edge of the rim that this is floating on. And then as the machine operates, it'll lubricate the top of that hook system platform that this bobbin case floats on top of in the sewing process, okay? Also, keep in mind, if you decide you want to do a complete service of the raceway area, let's say you get really ambitious and you want to do a complete service of the raceway area, the only way you're going to be able to accomplish that is by loosening the two screws right here that hold this retainer plate in. And when you reassemble the raceway, everyone always wants to get things real snug and tight, right? They always want to get it nice and snug so that this thing over here isn't wiggling too much. Be careful, because if you snug it up too much, when you reassemble the raceway, you're not going to allow enough room for that thread to pass through this channel right here. There's a little channel right there. I don't know if you can see it in the shot. There's a little channel from here to here, where in the sewing process, when that stitch is being completed and that knot is being accomplished between the two threads, that thread has to be able to pass through this little channel. And if you push this over too snug, you're going to close that channel off. And when you go to try to pull the thread up, or when you try to sew, your machine is going to jam up and be breaking thread, and potentially even be breaking a needle as the thread is yanking against that needle, trying to complete that stitch process. So just be real careful. And obviously you can remove this plate right here for more complete servicing to clean the feed dogs, you just lift up this edge and then just rotate it out of the way. But I love people that are ambitious. I love people that are trying new things, whether it's working on motors, whether it's doing a deeper cleaning and a servicing of your machine. But just be aware. Be aware that the tolerance in the raceway is very, very specific in design, and you've got to take that into account if you decide to tear this apart like I did and reassemble it, okay? Hope that makes sense and hope that's helpful. When we drop this thread, this bobbin in, we're going to be drawing the thread into this little opening right there that I'm pointing the needle at, and then drawing that thread to the rear, and the thread will be coming over the top, which tells us in the sewing process, this bobbin is going to be turning, like you can see right now, it's going to be turning counterclockwise. So make sure you understand that it's going to be turning counterclockwise. If you don't remember anything else, it'll make sure that you've got the bobbin case orientated correctly. Okay? All right. Let's see, what else? I've talked about it in other live streams. This is our adjuster right here for the range of motion for that take-up spring, that little screw right there. Kind of see it? If you loosen this screw and you rotate this up, it's going to allow you to have a larger range of motion. If you loosen this screw right here and you rotate this plate down, it's going to give you less range of motion. There are certain thread types that are a little bit more fragile. You want less range of motion on this check spring when you're working with those more delicate threads so that it doesn't break them constantly. So, yeah, I think that's about it. That kind of walks you around the machine, gives you the lay of the land. So let's see if we can put this machine to work now and try some stitching with this 457 model from 1961. Yeah. All right, let me put my little needle away. And all in all, I would say that this model 457, this 457 is a quiet operating machine. It certainly is a lot more quiet now than if any of you do Facebook and you saw that reel that I posted. I posted a reel of the precondition of this machine and how it sounded. It sounded absolutely awful. It sounded absolutely awful. It's much quieter now, but remember, because you've got a machine that's comprised of 3 different materials, you've got a combination of a type of aluminum. I want to say that's, let me double check. Let's see. I think that's aluminum on the, nope, metal. Okay. So we've got a combination of metal. We got a metal faceplate. We've got a plastic cover on top. We've got a plastic base that it's mounted to. So it's not as quiet as some machines, but it's much more quiet than it was. All right. Oh, and then we also have the composite body as well. This composite material body, the base is made out of that, and also the arm of the machine and the pillar. And Singer had made this as a recycling option, where when you crush a machine like this, it basically, almost like a safety glass in a vehicle, it kind of breaks down into little cube pieces when you crush the base, the arm, the pillar, this composite type material you can see right here. So this is not metal. It's a composite type material that has the properties of metal. Hopefully that makes sense. So yeah, Singer was trying to be economical and environmentally friendly. All right, so let's give this a go. I'm going to start with a basic straight stitch, and then we'll kind of go from there. Straight. Turn the machine on. And this does have a direct power supply, which means you've got to have the light on to operate the machine. It's not like some of the machines where they're wired separately. And if we're getting that glare, we can shut the light off. On this one, we got to leave it on, unfortunately. All right, let me move the sew-offs off. We'll get a little bit closer. So we'll lay down a straight stitch, and then we'll go to a zigzag, and then we'll do a blind hem stitch as well. All right, let's give this a go. And again, I'm sewing with a quilting needle. I don't use them very often, so we'll see how this quilting needle by Schmetz does. We'll see how it does on these sew-offs. I don't think I cut any leather, but I might, once we go through all of these other sew-offs, I've got a bunch of sew-offs. Maybe we'll try sewing some leather with a quilting needle as well, just to give the Schmetz people that follow us on Facebook and YouTube, give them a little bit of a heart palpitation as we're sewing through genuine cowhide with a quilting type needle. And if you joined us a little bit late, this is the needle that's in the machine today, a size 90-14 quilting needle. So we'll see how it holds up to some of the more rigorous sew-offs that I've got ready for it. We'll see how it does. All right, straight stitch, and we'll go from there. All right, straight stitch, and I'll hold off showing these to you until we go all the way down through all the stitches that I want to do, and then I'll show you all of them at the same time. And on this machine, when you're advancing the thread, let me back the camera up a little bit. When you're advancing the thread, I would recommend as you're pulling on this, just rock that balance wheel a little bit, and that thread will pull out more easily. Don't try yanking on it. Just kind of rock that balance wheel, and that thread will come out very nicely. So that's our straight stitch, and I do have it set on the largest setting. And my pressure foot pressure is right about 5.5 right now. So we'll see how those stitches did in their fullness going down this material. All right. Oh, and the sew-off I'm doing right now, I'm like getting ahead of myself a little bit. The sew-off we're doing right now is 2 layers of 100% cotton with quilt batting in the middle. You can probably see that from the side a little bit. Quilt batting with 2 layers of 100% cotton. All right. So let's do a zigzag now. And to do a zigzag, all we're going to do is we're going to make sure that our little dial here is to the left. So I've got to make sure that that dial is rotated to the left, and it is. Then we have to decide on our stitch length. I think we'll go super wide, go all the way to 5. We'll leave our needle position where it's at in the center position. And obviously when you're doing a zigzag at any point between 1 and 5, it's going to override the needle position anyway, isn't it? That's just the function and the engineering of the machine. As soon as you go between 1 and 5 on the stitch width on any machine, it's going to override your option to set a needle position. You can only set a needle position when you're set on 0 width for a straight stitch. So just keep that in mind. I've been contacted about that many times over the years as well, where people say, I've got such and such a machine and my needle position is broken. And right away, I'll ask them, I'll say, where's your stitch width set right now? And they'll say, 2 or 3 or 4 or wherever. And I'll say, move it to 0. And then all of a sudden, your stitch needle position works beautifully, doesn't it? And that seems like such a simple thing, but the simple things can trip us up sometimes, can't they? They absolutely can. So I'm going to move us back over to 5. I've got us at the maximum as well for stitch length right now. So we're going to be doing the widest, longest zigzag that this machine, the model 457, is capable of doing. Okay. Let's give that a go now. Move my little clippers. And I say it all the time. You probably get tired of it. I know you get tired of it, but always get your take-up arm to the highest position, right? Get your highest position, and the machine is going to launch so much nicer, so much nicer. Okay, so let's do that zigzag now, and then we'll finally do our blind hem stitch. And I'm probably going to scale down the blind hem stitch just because I won't have enough room on this little narrow piece of 100% cotton to do a super huge blind hem. It's going to swing too far and overlap our zigzag probably. Matter of fact, let me adjust this even a little bit further over, just a little bit further over. Hopefully we don't hit that straight stitch, but at least we'll be able to give ourselves a little bit more of a margin as we lay this zigzag down. All right, so here we go. And on this machine, unlike some of the recent ones with the oscillating hook system, Don't concern yourself necessarily about holding the thread. If you want to, then hold it. But it's not going to be as demanding with this horizontal rotary hook system in pulling that thread on the initial launch. So you don't have to be as concerned about holding onto that like I did on some of the recent live streams. Okay. All right, here we go. Oh, I see. I checked that dial. I thought I checked that dial on top. I thought I checked it. Apparently I didn't, because I ended up getting a blind hem stitch. Oops. Oops. So let's try that again. I will check that dial again. I pushed on it and I thought it was to the left, but apparently not. Let's do that again. Let's see what we get here. See if we can get a zigzag out of this machine. All right. So now take 3. Now we're going to be going for the zigzag, hopefully. All right. And I would recommend, whenever you're dealing with a machine like this that has a built-in cam assembly, that you not be adjusting this when it's set anywhere between 1 and 5. I would take it all the way down to 0. And then go ahead and adjust this then to the side. Now that time I felt it click. I put a little bit more pressure on it with my thumb and I rotated it to the left. So now we should be hopefully good to go. I'll bring this stitch length back over to 5 again, leave this where it's at. Now let's see if we can get that zigzag that I was aiming for the first time on this model 457. Get my take-up arm all the way up as well. All right. Hopefully we get that zigzag now. Here we go. And there's the zigzag we were going for the first time. Oh, sometimes a teacher, always a student, right? Don't I always say that? Sometimes a teacher, always a student. And on a live stream, if something can go wrong or you can miss something or overlook something or whatever, it's going to happen. It's going to happen on a live stream. You can count on it. All right, so now let's finally take a look at this stitching and see what we think. Didn't make any tension adjustments, so we'll see how it handled this cotton. And we're using, oh, and actually I'm seeing right now, I'm seeing an opportunity. We'll try this again because I'm seeing an opportunity where, let me double check. Yep. I'm seeing an opportunity that shows us what happens when the tension is not sufficient to deliver a super, super wide zigzag stitch. The more needle swing, the more tension becomes a factor because of the bridge point between these stitch holes where that thread like a bridge is stretched because there's a wider gap with no support. So the top stitch is usually not an issue. You can see our top stitching looks really, really good. Let me get super close. Our top stitching looks really, really good. Nice definition, good spacing, good clarity, even with that super wide zigzag as we go across. Some really, really good looking stitching. And again, we're using that quilting needle, and quilting needles are generally very happy with cotton. So I think it's doing a good job with this cotton material. But then I talk about the difficulty for a machine doing that lock stitch, because that lock stitch, the needle has to sweep through the material and then get pulled all the way back up. Plus we have that gap point, the bridge point with those zigzags where there's no support from here to the top of that stitch line. And so you'll notice on the back, when we get to that, you're going to notice that tension was just a little bit insufficient. Let me turn it over. I'll show you what I mean. So now we're looking at that lock stitch on the back of these 2 layers of cotton. And you can see both on the blind hem stitch, right about there. On the blind hem stitch and also on the zigzag, we did not have enough pull up from that upper tension. And so the stitching is a little bit loose in certain areas as we go across. And that can be corrected very easily by bumping up our upper tension, right? Let's go across and I'll show you this. Look at that zigzag in particular, where you can see the bottom point of that zigzag pattern was not pulled tight enough. You can see some of it as well at the peak and also at the bottom of that blind hem stitch. Even our straight stitching, straight stitching was pretty good. You look at it like this without the glare. Our straight stitching looks pretty solid, longest straight stitch. But we didn't have enough pull from that upper tension for that blind hem stitch and that zigzag. And also the joining points of that blind hem stitch as well are a little bit weaker than they should be. So how do we correct that? We go to our upper tension and we bump it up a little bit, which is what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to go from 7 to about 8 because we're dealing with the widest possible zigzag and the widest blind hem stitch that the machine can do. Now I need to get some more cotton and some more quilt batting, and we'll try stitching down it one more time. The other material I have is already stitched off, so I'm not going to try to stitch over that again. And we'll see if we can get a good outcome as far as that tensioning. All right, give me just a second here. I'm going to put on a little bit of music while I'm getting that material cut. All right, let me pause that music. So what we did is we were sewing with that super wide zigzag. And again, we're using a quilting needle. We're using Coats & Clark dual duty XP thread. And we had just a little bit of a looseness on the back of that zigzag for the lock stitch and also the blind hem stitch. And so I took that upper tension and I bumped it up a little bit. Did that solve the problem? Let's see. So this is our top stitching. No issue with that the first time. It was spot on. And now we turn it over, look at that lock stitch. How do we do this time? You can see just that subtle little adjustment on that upper tension resolve that difficulty when we want to sew with a super wide stitch and we're creating those wider bridge points. The wider the bridge point between where the needle is coming in here and then eventually at the peak of that zigzag point, you need a little bit more pull up factor to define that lock stitching with that needle passing through. So if you encounter that, remember it's a tension factor, right? It's not that there's anything wrong with your machine. It just doesn't have enough ability to pull up. Let's see if we get the same positive result. That's our top stitching again, no problem with that. Let's see if we get the same positive result with the blind hem stitch as well. Let's give that a go. So now we need to adjust that dial back, but first of all, I want to take my stitch width down to 0. Take it down to 0. Now we're going to rotate this back over to the blind hem setting. Okay, I think I got it. I think. Take this back over to 5 again. We're going to leave our stitch length alone. Now let's see if we can do that blind hem stitch and have the same, hopefully we have the same positive result of not having that loopiness like we got with the first stitch off right here where we had those loose points on the back of the material. That was our first attempt. And you can see we really didn't have it adjusted properly, did we? You can see the drop point on that zigzag, the drop point on some of the points of the blind hem, and even the straight stitch. It's not bad. It's actually quite nice, but it could be much better, couldn't it? So we've increased that upper tension. Let's see if we can also do the blind hem now and get the same, hopefully the same positive result. Get my take-up arm all the way up. All right. Blind hem stitch now. And I'm going to do this blind hem stitch quite wide. Normally, if I sewed it, I would do it much more compact. But we're going to do it at the maximum setting now to see if our upper tension is able to handle that wide gap that we're creating, the wide gap between those strike points between here and here and here. It's like a 3 points. We got a point there. There's no support right here for the thread. Just like here, we've got a strike point right there. And there's no support for the thread here or here. So that tension factor is critical in making sure that this part of the zigzag and this part of the blind hem are pulled tight enough to maintain that stitch integrity. Okay? All right, let's go down this and try the blind hem stitch now. Here we go. All right, let's see how we did. So I'll show you again what we had the first time. This was our first attempt at it right here. We did great on the top stitching. Beautiful top stitching. Solid page 34 plus. But then when we got to the back side, we lacked enough upper tension to define that stitch well. So we had a loose point right there all the way across the bottom of that zigzag. And we had the same issue to some extent on the top of the peak points of the blind hem stitch, and even the joining points of the straight stitching weren't nearly as defined as they should be. So that was our first result. Not absolutely awful, but definitely not up to the standards that we're aiming for. This is our second attempt now. We laid down a beautiful top stitch, some really, really good clarity of stitch. And then this on the back was our lock stitch that we struggled with before. And now you can see I may have actually gone up a little bit too high on the upper tension, because now we've got incredible clarity of stitch on the joining points of the blind hem stitch, on the peaks and the valleys of the zigzag. Everything is absolutely as it should be. But remember, if you go too far to get a great looking lock stitch, you can steal away the stitch definition from that top stitch. So we might even want to consider adjusting this back just a tiny little bit, especially since we're not always going to be sewing at that widest, longest point on the sewing machine, right? We're not always going to be bumping that stitch width to max. We're not always going to be bumping that stitch length to max either. So we may not need to adjust that upper tension as dramatically. But now we've gone from what I think is a rather shoddy looking zigzag and blind hem stitch on the bottom there to one on the top that we did after making that tension adjustment. And now it's absolutely as it should be, isn't it? It's absolutely spectacular. If you look at the contrast between those two. So knowledge is power, they always say, right? Knowledge is power. You have the knowledge now, and you should share the knowledge with others, because you're going to encounter people that will run into a problem like this, and they're absolutely sure that there's a problem with their sewing machine. Maybe it's a hook timing issue. Maybe it's some other mechanical failure on the machine. Maybe it's an issue with their upper tension, having a spring that's warped or damaged in some way. When in fact, all it might take is a simple adjustment to take away the droopiness of that zigzag, the lack of definition on the joining points on that blind hem, and get us to a point like that on top, right? So share the knowledge, get out there and let folks know how to overcome problems like this. Tension problems are talked about on the internet probably more than anything. When you're talking about sewing, everyone, everywhere is always talking about, I'm having problems with this machine and the tension. And some of you have experienced that as well. Now you know if you run into an issue, knowing the tug of war principle. And I recently explained that to a lovely lady. Susie came on the call with me to service an industrial, what was it? An industrial Juki machine. And this gal did not understand the concept of tension adjustment. And so if she had encountered something like this or like that, she would have been a lost soul in what to do. Okay? Yeah. All right. Enough on that. Let's see here. Rotate that back. Get us back to a zigzag. Okay, I'm going to throw these to the back. We've done a lot of cotton. Now we're going to go to the softer side. Now we'll go to the softer side. I think that used to be a commercial for Sears, wasn't it? The softer side of Sears or something like that? Maybe. I don't know. Let's see. What do we have? I think I have some satin in here somewhere. Yeah, there it is. So now I've got some of this satin material. This is some of the surplus that Emma had sent me with that 328K for her friend Jane from Florida. Now, what adjustments, if any, do we need to consider making when we're shifting from quilt batting and 2 layers of cotton down to satin now with a wafer, less than a wafer thin piece of stiffener in between the satin. What kind of adjustments do we need to make? Does anyone know? Yeah, you can send Paula. Paula's wanting to send some Kona cotton. I've actually sewn on Kona cotton before. You might remember Paula Noel from West Palm Beach, Florida, a very dear friend of the family. She sent me a bunch of pre-cut Kona cotton with, I believe there was quilt batting in between. And I sewed on that Kona cotton several times, but it's been a long, long, long time since I've done that. And all of my samples now are in storage. So yeah, if someone wants to mail me some Kona cotton, go for it. Just send it to the P.O. box address that Susie or one of the other leaders can post. And I would love to try sewing some more Kona cotton, and we can fine tune the tension adjustments to get that just right. All right, so now we're going to do some satin. If we're sewing satin, what type of adjustments should we look at doing? What do we need to adjust if we're going from something a little bit heavier, a little bit thicker? Yeah. Susie is asking, would you adjust the presser foot pressure? Absolutely, you would. So right now we're set on about 5.5, somewhere like that, right around 5.5, I believe it is. Now we're going to adjust this down a ways. We're going to go down to, why don't we go to, I don't know if this is going to be too far or not, but I'm going to adjust it down to, assuming the center point is our set point, I'm going to adjust it to about 3.5 because we're sewing something super light now. Super, super light. So let's give this satin a try now with that stiffener that's in it. We've adjusted our pressure foot pressure. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm also going to go with a slightly less wide zigzag, but we're still going to do a zigzag. So I'm going to go up to about 3 on the stitch width, and then I'm going to adjust my stitch length over here to between right around 8, 7 or 8. I just brought it up a little ways. So we brought up our stitch length to about, I think we're at about 8. We brought our stitch width to about 3, and now we're going to try to do a zigzag on this super delicate, super thin satin material with a stiffener. And we'll try the zigzag. We'll try the blind hem. I'm going to make the blind hem a little bit more compact, and then we'll do a common straight stitch as well. I usually do the straight stitch first. This time we'll do it last. Okay. So again, make sure you bring that take-up arm up. You can see it's way down here right now. That's going to cause binding, especially on a dual belt machine like this. You've got to give a machine like this every launching opportunity possible when it's pushing the power between 2 belt systems on the same machine. So we're going to bring that all the way up. There we go. Now we'll try to lay down a zigzag on this, and then we'll do a blind hem. I think I'm on a zigzag, maybe. Otherwise, we'll rotate it the other way. And then we'll go to a straight stitch, okay? And we did reduce, if you joined us a little bit late, we did reduce our presser foot pressure by almost 30%, from about 5.5 all the way down to 3.5. So let's give us a go and see how we do. The thing we're going to be looking for with regard to presser foot pressure and the adjustment that we made to accommodate this very delicate satin is when we look at the lock stitching, are we going to see any puckering? Are we going to see any of that sign of stress on the material because the force was too great pushing down? That's the thing when you're sewing silk and satin and other materials that are really delicate. You got to really factor that presser foot pressure in and give it a light touch. Give it a super light touch, right? All right, so here we go with a zigzag, and then we'll kind of go from there, and we'll see how we do on this satin material, okay? Intentionally slowing it down. So we did a zigzag. Now we're going to go over to a blind hem. And then we'll go to a straight stitch last. And again, if you join us a little bit late, when you're advancing the thread on a model like this, just rock that balance wheel a little bit. And that thread will advance very nicely without having to stress the upper tension or the spring. Okay? Let's give that a clip, and now we'll move into a blind hem stitch. And then lastly, a zigzag after that. Or excuse me, lastly, a straight stitch. A straight stitch after that. All right, so let me get this back into place. It's going to initially make an evaluation. So we're still getting, we're getting just a real subtle puckering. Let me show it to you on the camera. We're getting just a real subtle puckering. You can see it on the top and the bottom of that, that zigzag. So I'm going to adjust that presser foot pressure down even just a little bit more. So right now we're at about 3.5. I'm going to take it down even a little bit more. See where we're at right now. Take it down even just a little bit more. I hope I didn't go too far. I brought it down one more step to about 2.5, and hopefully we still get adequate feed with this satin. But we want to try to eliminate that puckering as much as we can, because it's such a delicate material when you're sewing satin and silk, isn't it? Okay, we get that back into position. Presser foot is down. Now we need to, I might as well get my take-up arm all the way up while I'm here, right? Get that all the way up. There we go. It's on that downstroke. See that? It's on that downstroke. And now we're going to take our stitch width down to 0 temporarily so we can adjust our cam up here. And we're going to take this to the right now to get that blind hem stitch. Okay, now I'm going to move my stitch width back to probably right around, on a blind hem, I might want to go a little bit wider. So I'm going to go right about to 4. And then I'm going to go even just a little bit shorter on the stitch length over here. I'm at about 8 right now. I'm going to go down even a little bit further so we can hopefully define that blind hem stitch, kind of tighten it up a little bit more on the pattern. So let's see how we do on the blind hem now. And then lastly, we'll do that straight stitch and we'll check out our material. And now we're really, really light on the presser foot pressure, only about 2.5. We started at 5.5. Now we're all the way down to 2.5 to accommodate this satin. Okay. All right, here we go. All right, I'm going to stop right there. Look at our back. Oh, much better. You'll be able to see it. You'll be able to see the puckering we were getting on that top row compared to this lower row. It's looking a lot better balanced now. So we had to go all the way down to 2.5 on the presser foot pressure to try to all but eliminate the puckering that we were getting on this real delicate satin material. So just keep that in mind when you're sewing lighter. You got to back off that presser foot and just trust that the machine is still going to be able to feed it. It's just going to have a lighter touch, right? Just have a lighter touch. So now we'll do a straight stitch and then we'll look at all of these stitches on this satin material. And I think we'll do, since we have all this satin space, I think we'll do a longer straight stitch and also a shorter straight stitch so we can look at them comparatively. It's surprising when you sometimes, I was talking about the bridging point. I was talking about the bridging point on the zigzag and any of those stitches that have needle movement, because you have no support between the needle strike points and that thread has to be supported through tension. You would think that the shorter you go, the easier it is for the machine, but it's not always the case. When you go super short sometimes with a stitch, it also can create tension challenges because of the repetition of that sewing, needing to create those stitches much more closely knitted together. So we'll see what results we get, and then we'll see potentially what adjustments we would make to get the outcome that we want. Let me get that presser foot back down. Get our take-up arm all the way up. And now we're going to move over to a straight stitch. So I've got to take my stitch width all the way down to 0. And I'm going to go much longer. I'll go down to our longest setting, right around 6 to 7 stitches per inch. And then our second stitch line we do will be closer to about 10 to 12 stitches per inch. So let's give this a try first, and we'll see how John and Paula's daughter's machine manages this real delicate satin material. It's very, very delicate. And I just checked my phone real quick to see if by chance John responded with his daughter's name, but I don't see that. So we'll just say John and Paul's daughter, right? John and Paul's daughter. All right, so straight stitch, longer, and then a straight stitch, shorter, going down this satin material. Here we go. Just going to double check settings. We're good to go. All right, here we go. Okay. Now we're going to shorten that stitch up. I'm just going to check our tensioning, see how we're looking on tension. And I'm going to make a little bit of an adjustment. We've got a good looking straight stitch, but I'm just going to, remember how we bumped up our upper tension before? I'm going to bump that back down just a little bit more because we're not sewing as wide and we don't need quite as much pull up on that upper tension assembly. All right, now we're going to do our second stitch line much shorter. And we'll see how the machine does in maintaining that. I'm going to check that lock stitch one more time. Okay, now we'll go to about 10 to 12 stitches per inch. And I don't know if any of you on a regular basis or occasionally sew on silk or satin, but setup is really important when you're sewing materials like this. Very, very important. The type of needle you select. If I were sewing a bunch of satin like this or silk, I really wouldn't want to be using a size 90 like I am right now. I'd want to be down in that 75 range. 75-11 would be a much better choice for silk or satin. But because we're doing a wider field of materials, I want to have the advantage of that heavier needle, especially as a quilting needle, so that we have a greater likelihood of success in sewing some of these other materials we're going to be trying to sew today. Okay, so now we're going to adjust our stitch length from 6 to 7 all the way up to about 10 to 12. I think we'll go right around 10-ish in that range right there. All right, let me bring that camera back down. And I'll give you an initial glimpse. I've been making you wait a long time. Give you an initial glimpse of what we have so far. See if I can block that light a little bit. And it's gonna be hard on this angle. Maybe if I go like that. We'll look at it afterwards. We're getting kind of a glow from that LED light off of there. So we'll just wait a little bit longer and then we'll take a look at all of them together. So here we're doing a shorter stitch, right around 10 to 12 stitches per inch. And we'll see how we do on this one. And this one, I'm going to try to really hold my speed back just so that the machine has a little bit more time to lay down those tight stitching patterns and get better clarity. All right, here we go. There we go. Yeah, I like that balance. That looks good. We might be a little bit heavy on the upper tension, even though I adjusted it down a little bit, but I think we've got a good result. And we really have done an excellent job, I think, of reducing that puckering issue on the back of the material where it was a lot more pronounced on those first initial stitch rows that we did. All right, let me give these threads a clip and then we'll finally take a look at the results on this satin material. And again, there is just a super wafer thin layer of stiffener in between these two real thin layers of satin. So we do have the a little bit of a benefit with that stiffener material, giving us a little bit more stability with such a delicate material. All right, let me get my orientation right. This should be our top stitch here. I'm just double checking. That's our top stitch, lock stitch down there. So we'll look at the top stitching first, and then we'll move over to the lock stitching after that. And I'm hoping the camera will be successful in focusing on this. There we go. All right, let me go across, and you can observe and see what you think as far as how we did in managing that tension factor on such a delicate material. Also, when we turn it over, you'll have a chance to look at that puckering effect that you can sometimes get when you're sewing really light materials like this as well. And again, because we're sewing with a 90-14 needle instead of a small needle, you'll notice, especially on the zigzag, that you'll actually see those holes. You'll see those big holes in the satin that larger needle creates. And that's why you would want to scale the needle down if you were doing a lot of satin or silk type sewing. You'd want to scale that needle down quite a bit. All right, I'm going to hold my hand over the camera, kind of get rid of some of that glare, hopefully a little bit. All right, let me get it lined up. We'll go across one more time and look at this stitching. Hold on one second. That's some really good looking stitching. All right, hold on. Almost got it. Almost got it. There we go. I think I got it. Almost. There we go. I'm going to try to do 2 rows. I don't know if the camera will let me get that close, but I'm going to try to get in even closer if the camera will allow me to get even closer to that material. See if we can look at it even closer up. I can't tell if it's focused right now. I think it might be a little bit out of focus. Yeah, you can see that needle is too big for this satin material. It's making like a bullet hole through it, like a harpoon, as our friend Sonny would say. All right, let me turn it like this. We'll look at it vertically as well. We might get a little bit of a better angle on that stitching to be able to see it with greater clarity. Start in right about there. Let's see. Some really, really good looking stitching. And I like when we scale that blind hem stitch down a little bit, don't you? I like when we scale that blind hem stitch down a little bit. I'm going to come up one more time. I'm kind of holding my hand above that LED light so that it's not creating as much of a glare factor, hopefully. So I'm really happy with what I'm seeing. I'm really happy with what I'm seeing on this top stitching. We've got really good clarity of stitch. We've got great stitch definition. The stitch formation and the pattern definition, I would say, is very, very spot on. We've got a good tension factor as well in maintaining the integrity of the stitch. So now we're going to turn it over and we'll look at that lock stitching on the back and see what we think of that. I'm going to start over here, see if I can cut my hand over there. Maybe that won't be a factor. See, when I turn it sideways a little bit, you can really see that stitching pop, but then I get that glare. I get that doggone glare from the LED light above. So let's try this. I'll do my best just to hold it slow and still for you, okay? So we got our zigzag, we got our blind hem, we got our long straight stitch, our shorter straight stitch. And right now we're looking at the lock stitching. And I'll tell you one thing, I'm very, very pleased overall with what I'm seeing. We might be able to bump up our tension just a tiny little bit more as I'm looking at some of the joining points on those blind hem stitches. Let me try to get real close. I'll show you what I mean. We got some good stitch definition, but I think the clarity of the stitching could even be better. Let me turn it like this maybe. There we go. So satin and silk are challenging materials to sew. They can be challenging materials to sew because they are so delicate. And I think we did an excellent job. If you look at the pucker factor, I think we did a good job. We could even maybe backed it off a little bit more. But all in all, we got a very good looking lock stitch. You kind of look at it in totality there. Very good looking lock stitching. And we had a very, very good outcome on the top stitching as well. Through the whole scale of sewing that we did, delivered some really, really good, solid results on this delicate satin material. The only change that we could make is we could certainly scale that needle down, couldn't we? We could go down to a 75 or maybe even a 70. I don't know if I'd go all the way down to a 60, but we could certainly scale that needle down quite a ways and get some even improved results. So let me throw that satin to the side, and I'll show you what we have left. We've been running about an hour and 49 minutes. I'll show you what we have left, and if anyone wants to voice input on the type of stitch you want to see, and the type of material you want to see sewn, I'll try to honor that. So these are the materials I have ready again. I've got, let me see here. I've got some of this vinyl material. I thought I had 2 layers of this, but I'm only feeling one. Oh, there it is. Duh. So we've got 2 layers of this vinyl material that we can certainly sew. We've got some of this 100% nylon material. It looks like a ribbon material. Incredibly translucent. You can see that. Incredibly translucent. Kind of tricky stuff to sew, but it's fun stuff to sew as well. And the sew-offs I've done on this has gotten a lot of great feedback on how the stitches present on this material. So I'm open to sewing this 100% nylon as well. And I bought this at the Dollar Tree. I buy a lot of my stuff at the Dollar Tree. I just do. And then we got this upholstery type material as well we can sew. I've got some of this canvas type material that we can sew as well. And I've got some of this upholstery material. It's a little bit of a different style of upholstery material. We can try sewing that as well with our quilting needle. Give the Schmetz people a little bit of a heart palpitation. We got some of this outdoor material. This stuff can be a little bit of a challenge for some machines, as you've seen. But I'm open to trying doing multiple layers of this, and we can lay down the stitching on it that you want to see. Maybe you want to see a zigzag. Maybe you want to see a blind hem. Maybe you want to see that straight stitching on here. So let me know on that as well. And then we've got some of this 100% polyester material made to look like fleece, but it's not real fleece. So we got that as well to sew. And then we got some of this denim, heavy grade denim material as well. And we could try doing multiple layers of this denim also on this model 457. So those are the materials I've got. I did prepare some paper as well, but I was wondering, maybe I'll try that one last, because I was wondering how well a quilting material will do with Amazon Prime packing parchment paper. I'm not sure if this is if we're going to do damage to that quilting needle, but maybe we'll try this as a final sew off, some of this Amazon Prime packing parchment paper. And then, like I said, we can also try a little bit of leather as well. I don't know if I've sewn leather with a quilting needle anytime recently, so I can grab a piece of 100% cowhide also, and maybe we can give that a go. So here's 100% cowhide. I just grabbed some of this. We'll save this until near the end, or we can do it sooner. If someone wants to pick it sooner and say, hey, let's do the leather, then I've got this genuine cowhide. And just because of the the design of this machine from 1961, being well built in Canada, having a very powerful motor, but also having certain components of the machine that may not be built to the same standards of machines that were earlier by Singer. I'm not going to do 2 layers of cowhide on this machine. I'll do a single layer, and I think that'll be enough. So those are our choices. And Tim is saying, let's do a zigzag on leather. Tim, you wild man from Thorpe, Wisconsin. Oh, nice. James is sharing some cool stuff about what is it, parsley silk shawls or something like that. Susie's saying let's do 100% nylon and or denim and zigzag on leather. So okay, and then we're looking at maybe doing a zigzag on some upholstery material also. Let's start with the leather. We'll do the leather, and again, if we break or bend the quilting needle, I'll put another one in. I've got more of them, but it's a size 90-14, so I think it should have enough. I think even though it's a quilting needle, I think it should have enough grit to get through it. So we'll do a zigzag on leather, and who knows, maybe we'll pull off a blind hem on leather as well. And that was requested by Tim, and then we'll move into, what is it, nylon and denim. I think this is our nylon stuff here and our denim. And then what else do we have? I thought I had one more. Did I miss it? Nylon, denim. Oh, yeah. Shirley said, let's try heavy upholstery material zigzag, please. So I'm going to pull the upholstery material out as well. Yeah, we got and I don't know if I thought I had 2 types of upholstery. That's canvas. Oh yeah, this is the upholstery as well. Maybe we can do this one. That would be a fun one. It's got kind of a fun little sheen to it. We'll do this one we'll do this one for Shirley. This will be our Shirley one. Paula's giving some information. I appreciate that. They're sharper and stronger. And when we say stronger, we're talking about the shank, aren't we? We're talking about the body of the needle has a little bit more strength and density to it. Probably not quite up to the standard of a denim needle. I would believe that denim needles would be even stronger than quilting needles. And the multiple layers that Paula is talking about with quilting is absolutely true, whether it's cotton or quilt batting or other ancillary type materials. But the quilting, even though it might be thick, the piercing threshold for most common quilts, most common quilts is not going to be quite up to the level of, say, a canvas or a leather, in my opinion. Unless you're making a leather or a canvas quilt, then certainly it would be. But it's good to have that information from Paula about the quilting needles certainly being built well. They're built well, they're built strong, and they're designed to go through those multiple layers that quilters will call them to do. So let's see how it does against this leather, which, most quilters, if you talk to them and you say, how many leather-based quilts have you made? I think they're probably going to tell you not very many, if any. So we're going to be putting this quilting needle to a test that probably most quilters would not. And if quilters use a leather, in often cases, it's going to be a garment style leather, which is about as thin as that stiffener that we used when we sewed the satin. It's going to be garment leather is super duper thin, and it's very, very easy to pierce it. So, but if there's other quilts out there that you know of where they've sewn on 100%, cowhide or other heavier leathers like that, I would love to know about that, just so that we can even be even more amazed about the capabilities of a quilting needle and how far we can push it. Right? Sarah must have a Harley Davidson. Sarah uses leather needles. Harley Davidson, I don't know if any of you know this, but does anyone know? I'm sure Sarah will know because she is acquainted with Harley Davidsons. But where traditionally are Harley Davidsons made? What state and what city? What state and what city are Harley Davidsons made? And that's important to know because what's real popular in the Harley circles are the leather biker style jackets, aren't they? With that beautiful Harley symbol, embossed or sewn or stitched onto their jackets. Yeah, Bill is spot on from Minnesota. Bill is spot on. They're made in Wisconsin, and specifically, yeah, Sarah just nailed it. They're made in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And I'll tell you something. Back in the day, before I went to Germany with the military, I owned a beautiful home and I lived in the Milwaukee area. And I still remember when Harley celebrated their 100th anniversary, the city was basically gridlock with motorcycles everywhere. Everywhere you looked, the highways, the byways, everywhere. There were people that came from around the country, I think from around the world. Some of them shipped their motorcycles over to be a part of that 100th anniversary that would have occurred, I believe, back around mid-1990s. Is that right? Someone fact check that. When did Harley Davidson have their 100th anniversary? Because I was in Milwaukee when it happened, and it was absolutely bonkers, absolutely insane what was going on there. Absolutely insane. All right, so let's lay down a zigzag on this genuine cowhide for Tim, and then we'll see if we're going to maybe lay something else down on that stitching as well. And I'm looking at my distance. I'm looking at my laptop right now. I'm looking at my laptop, and I'm looking at the distance from the sewing. I had reduced the zoom factor on the camera. I think I might bring it back because it seems like we're a mile away from it, doesn't it? Maybe on your screen, if you're using a bigger screen, you can see it more clearly, but I might adjust the camera to zoom a little bit more in again on these. So, all right, so a zigzag. And I think on this leather, we'll probably try a 4 on the zigzag and probably about an 8. We'll set our zigzag at a width of 4, not quite at the absolute max. And then we'll set our stitch length to try to balance that zigzag right around, let's see, probably right around 7.5. See if I can adjust it up just a little bit. And let's see what we think of this zigzag on this 100% cowhide. 100% cowhide. Yeah, again, if somebody wants to look up, when did Harley Davidson have their 100th anniversary? Because I was living in Milwaukee at the time when it happened. I remember that vividly. It was just absolutely crazy, 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 crazy. All right, here we go. A zigzag for Tim going down 100% cowhide. And I'm going to give us a little bit of an edge on the lock stitching and just bump up our upper tension just a little bit. All right. Take up arm all the way up. Oh, really? Was it 2003? Wow. Maybe it was later than I realized. Later than I realized. Yeah. Thank you for looking that up, Sarah. All right, here we go. A zigzag going down this 100% cowhide. Here we go. All right, intentionally took it kind of slow. We'll get an initial glimpse of that. There's our top stitching right there. Really quite a lovely zigzag. Quite a lovely zigzag stitch that we just did with a quilting needle. So can you sew genuine cowhide with a quilting needle? Absolutely. We just did it. And then let's see how our lock stitching came out. Lock stitching also looks really quite nice. Looks really quite nice. I think we have enough upper tension to define it. And I'll clip this and then we'll take a closer look at the stitching as well. Yeah, I'd like to hear more about leather quilts. That would be kind of cool. Leather quilts. Leather quilts. All right, let's look at this zigzagging, and then we'll see if we're going to lay down maybe a blind hem stitch on it as well. Blind hem stitch will really create a little bit of a challenge because of the needle swing and then also the bridging points on that pattern, but we'll give it a try. All right, so here's our top stitching. Come on, camera. There we go. Thank you, camera. Thank you. So there's our top stitching. And I agree. I think it was it Sarah or Shirley? I think it was Shirley that talked about the strength of quilting needles. No, it was Paula. Paula talked about the strength of quilting needles. And it's evidenced here, isn't it? It went through that, the sharpness factor and the strength factor of those quilting needles and went through this cowhide, which you can see from the side, it's not thin. That's not a thin piece of cowhide. It's probably about 3 ounces, maybe almost 4. And that quilting needle, which Paula shared with us, is stronger and sharper than most needles, did a brilliant job. Did an absolutely brilliant job. Look at it like this as well. Very, very nice. So a beautiful top stitch on genuine cowhide. This was requested by Tim. And now we're going to take a look at that lock stitching as well. So our lock stitching on the back. We'll kind of come in a little bit close, see if we can get the camera to zoom in on that. And I'm seeing some good looking lock stitching as well. We'll just kind of look at this a second time, and we might be able to bump up the tension a little bit higher and straighten out those edges on that lock stitching even a little bit more. But all in all, really quite good. Quite a good job. Look at it like this. See if the camera will focus on that for us. Yeah, yeah. So some good looking lock stitching and also some good looking top stitching as well through a fairly thick piece of genuine cowhide. And obviously we could get even better results, I would think, with a leather needle because it has even more of a cutting edge point, doesn't it? And then we would be able to really see the beauty of that stitching on there. But let's see if we can push this this Schmetz quilting needle just a little bit further. We'll see if we can do now a blind hem stitch on this leather as well. I'm hoping we can maintain stitch integrity and stitch presentation. I also heard a message come in, so I'll quickly look at that message and see if I can respond to that. Looks like I have multiple. Oh, it is a message from John. You're actually not too late, comma. We are still live streaming your daughter's Singer Stylist model 457 right now. Period. What is her first name? Question mark. All right, we'll see if John gets back to us. The other message is unrelated. Yeah, the other message is unrelated, so I don't need to respond to that. Okay, we'll see if John gets back to us. I don't know if he will. I don't know if John will get back to us in time or not. But if he does, and he wants to share his daughter's first name, I'll be glad to mention her in the live stream while we're still going. All right, let's go over to the blind hem now. Remember to take this down to 0 so it pulls that finger back from reading the cam stack that's built into the machine. Now we're going to try to rotate this to the right and get over to that blind stitch. And now we'll go back up and we'll go up to right around 4 on width. Right around 4 on width. And then we'll, let's see, I think we'll make this a little tighter. Probably like right around between 8 and 9. 8 and 9 stitches per inch. 4 over here. Let's see how we like this blind hem stitch on this 100% cowhide. Okay, just about there. All right, perfect. All right, let's give this blind hem a stitch. Let's give this blind hem a stitch. Ha! Let's give the blind hem a stitch a go on this 100% cowhide, and we'll see what we think of that stitching. We did excellent on the zigzag, but we're going to be adding some additional elements, those bridging points to the blind hem, which can sometimes create a little bit of a tension challenge for the machine. Hopefully we nailed it. Hopefully we nailed it. All right, here we go. I was having fun with that, kind of up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. Oh yeah, I actually like that a lot. I like the look of that a lot. I'm kind of excited to show this to you. Blind hem can be a challenging stitch because you're incorporating a needle swing to generate the peak of that zigzag, while you're also shifting back then to a center point to lay down that straight stitching that bridges the points between them. And it can create some challenges on tension. But I think all in all, I think we did a really, really good job of maintaining it with this model 457. I think we did a fairly good job of maintaining it. All right, let me clip these threads, and we are having static issues. See my hand? We're having static issues today. And one of the things I sometimes do, and you may feel like it's a little bit odd, but let me show you one of the things I do in the winter time to try to contend with static that the thread inevitably will pick up. Okay. So here I've got, if any of you have heard of the product, Essential Oils. Essential Oils, I think, is almost a household name. And when you're a distributor of essential oils like Susie is, she gets these bottles and she can purchase bottles as well. And she's given me some of these bottles that will spray this essential oil in the finest mist that you can imagine. Incredibly fine mist. I don't know if I'm able to show it in front of the camera, not away from the machine, but well, I just sprayed the camera too. It kind of pivoted on my thumb, but you get an idea. If you look at it, it sprays a real fine mist. Let me dry that camera off real quick. It sprays a real light mist, and and what I'll do sometimes is I will cup my hand behind the thread like this, and from a distance I'll spritz a little bit of water on the spool of thread, so that as it's unwinding and working its way through the machine, it's going to have a real light vapor of moisture on it to reduce that static factor. I know it seems a little bit odd, but it works really well in the wintertime. So from here, just kind of give it a little bit of a spritz. And then I kind of just, take up a little, if there's a little bit of excess, just kind of lightly dampen it. But that really helps quite a bit. It helps quite a bit in allowing that thread to feed more evenly. And it also reduces the static in the joining point down in the raceway. All right, enough blah, blah, blah. Now let's take a look at this stitching. We've got our zigzag, which you've already seen. And then we've got our blind hem that we just laid down. And this is our top stitching. See, we can take a look at this in the camera. There we go. Yeah, I really, really like that. I really like the look of that blind hem stitch. Really, really like the look of that. Let's go across and take a look. And again, realize we're sewing leather with a quilting needle, not the ideal setup. But at the same time, I think we're enjoying some pretty good success. We'll look at it like this also. We're enjoying some pretty doggone good success doing something that most people probably wouldn't try. Most people would not try this, but we're going to give it a go. So zigzag blind hem stitch through genuine cowhide. Really, I think a great outcome considering our setup and everything. Lock stitching on the back. We'll try to get a little bit closer on that as well. Give you a look at that. Some good stitch clarity on that as well with also we've already looked at the zigzag, but the blind hem stitch also. Really, really pleased. The machine is doing fabulous. And considering our setup, I think it's doing even a more stellar job, or even more of a stellar job. And again, look at from the side, the thickness of what we're sewing. Not quite the thickness of a heavy belt, like a Harley belt or something like that, but it's pretty doggone thick, almost 4 ounces of leather. And we're laying down some pretty complex stitches that require a lot of stitch management. And we're getting, I think, some very, very good results. So I want to thank Tim for that challenge, if you will, and giving us a chance to try it out. All right, so I'm going to throw, where are the rest of my sew-offs? I think I lost them. Here they are. So we haven't done a ton of stuff yet. We've done some. See, we've done the leather now. We did the quilt batting where we had some tension issues, and then we addressed that and got some great outcomes on the follow-up stitch off on that. And then we also sewed the satin. So now we need to focus on some 100% nylon material. This stuff right here, incredibly translucent. And again, whenever you're sewing nylon, I mean, it's challenging stuff to get good stitch quality on. Some challenging stuff to get good stitch quality on. And I think on this, I'm going to actually, because it's a little bit slippery, I'm actually going to bump our presser foot back up again. So it's a little bit of a heavier push on this. I'm going to go up to about 3.5 again. Actually, I'm going to go all the way up to 4.5. I'm going to go all the way up to 4.5 on this 100% nylon material. And I've got 3 layers here, I believe. You can kind of see that. I've got 3 layers of this stuff. And you got to be real careful by the edges because it has metal running down the edges. You don't want to hit that. You don't want to hit that with a quilting needle or anything else. So we're going to kind of sew in a safe spot here on this. See if I can get that set right about there. And let's see, what did we do last? I'm trying to remember. We did a blind hem last, didn't we? We go back to a zigzag. We're going to take ourselves up to almost the max zigzag, right up to about a 4 again. Bring down that stitch length a little bit. We'll do a zigzag, and then we'll try a blind hem on this stuff. I'm a little bit apprehensive to do a blind hem, but I might do a blind hem as well. Also, I just remembered I heard my phone go off. Take a quick look at that. It was not John. So I'm getting the impression that John and his wife, Paula, probably would prefer that we not mention his daughter by name, even though it's just the first name. So I will take the cue on that and assume that that's what they're wanting. Oh, wait a second. John is now in the chat. Thank you, Susie. John is now in the chat, and his daughter's name is Becca. Okay. See that you can't jump to the wrong conclusions. I didn't see a text response from John, So I thought it might be a little bit of a privacy factor, and I totally respect that. But this machine, when I meet John today around 2 o'clock Central Time, is going to be going to Becca. This is Becca's machine. So Becca has a machine that was made just to revisit it to test to see how well all of you were paying attention. Becca will have a machine made in what country? What country did this Stylist Model 457 come from? What model did this Stylist Model 457 come from? See if you guys were paying attention. I think you were. And what size motor does this machine have? Where was it made? What size motor does Becca's machine have? Where was it made? What size motor? Come on, you guys. Wake up. Shake off the shackles. Okay, let me close that. I think I responded to all those. All right. All of you, I'm not seeing anything popping up in the live chat, so I'm going to tell you Becca's machine that we're presenting today, this Model 457 Stylist, was made in Canada, and it has a 0.95 amp motor. Made in Canada, has a 0.95 amp motor. That's a big motor. That's a big motor. So it's going to have plenty of power to do probably any of the sewing and then some that you're going to see this machine do. And if you're joining us a little bit late, we just got done sewing genuine cowhide. We sewed 100% cotton with quilt batting. And then we also went to the super light side and sewed on this satin material as well, and generated some beautiful stitching on this machine, on Becca's machine as well. So we've already done a fairly wide field of sew-offs, and we still have denim to do. We have upholstery material to do, and now we're going to do 100% nylon. And you're probably getting tired of my voice, maybe. So I'm going to put on a little bit of ragtime, since you've had a chance to hear this 1961 Canadian-made Stylist Model 457 sew quite a few sew-offs. I'm going to go ahead now and put on a little bit of music to give us a little bit of a break and enjoy a little bit of ragtime music. Let me see if I can find it. Actually, let me pick the other one. The other one's a little bit shorter. Okay, so far in this 100% nylon material, this really cool ribbon style material, we've laid down a zigzag, we've laid down a blind hem stitch. Now we're just going to lay down a quick straight stitch on this material, and then we'll take a look at these stitches up close. 100% nylon is a tricky material to sew, and I don't think most people using a quilting needle like we're set up today would necessarily sew a lot of nylon. I don't think they would. And that's why before I meet John today to return this machine to him to give to Becca, I'm going to replace the quilting needle in this machine with a universal needle. A universal needle is going to allow a wider range and a lot more versatility in sewing. Depending on what Becca decides to take on, the needle can pretty much handle anything. So this will have a universal needle when it goes back to John and his family for Becca to use later today. All right, so let me set this up now for a straight stitch. Straight stitch, we're just going to take stitch width and bring it all the way down to 0. And we'll go ahead and make this a little bit longer. I'll bring it down to the longest length of about 6. And now we'll buzz down this 100% nylon ribbon material with a straight stitch. And I'll show these stitches to you so you can check them out and appreciate the beauty of stitching on this type of material. And again, I bought this ribbon style 100% nylon at the Dollar Tree. It came from the Dollar Tree. Comes in a nice size roll. See if I can show you. And all Dollar Trees are different, right? All Dollar Trees are different, but this is the roll that I got at the Dollar Tree. It's 9 feet. 9 feet is quite a bit of nylon ribbon style material from their craft section. And if you went to a more prominent fabric store or something like that, and you bought something like this, what do you think you would pay for this at a fabric store or a specialty store for sewing? Probably, what do you think, about $7, maybe $8? Would it be more? I don't know. But I paid $1.25 for this, and I've been able to use it for multiple live streams already. So I'll probably pick up more of it because it really does a brilliant job of displaying the stitching, don't you think? But yeah, if your Dollar Tree has this, grab them while they have them. All right, let's do a straight stitch now on this 100% nylon material that is incredibly see-through. You can see that right there. I'm behind 3 layers of this stuff, and you can see my finger as bright as the day through it. So, all right, straight stitching. Here we go. And give this machine a listen. Again, it's not going to be as quiet as other singers that, say, have a non-plastic base, and others that are not comprised of 3 different materials. Again, this machine, made in Canada, was made so that it was eco-friendly. It was made to be eco-friendly in the 1960s, 1961, where this base here, this part of the machine can be crushed, and it breaks into tiny little cubes. It breaks into tiny little cubes, almost like that safety glass in cars. And then it can easily be remanufactured and reprocessed, recycled, blah, blah, blah. So you got a combination of that combination material that has a metal look to it, a metal feel. You've got aluminum, you've got plastic, you got everything under the sun. So it's a little bit louder. Plus you've got that dual belt system, which adds a little bit more sound to the machine as well. But I still think it's quite quiet with all those factors considered. So here goes a straight stitch, and then we'll take a look at these stitches. All right, here we go. Yeah, really nice. Yeah, I like that. This is cool material. Very cool material. All right, let me give this a clip. And we'll take a look at all 3 of these stitches on this 100% nylon ribbon style material. And I'll send all these sew offs with the machine when I meet John, so he'll have a chance to give them the Becca. I think I've got to put something behind this. Hold on a second. Give it a little bit cleaner look so we can look at these stitching, hopefully. Let's see here. Get the light angled right. The camera is really trying to focus right now. It's saying, I don't know. Let's see if we can get closer. Will that help? There we go. Sort of. I'll turn it on an angle a little bit because we're getting a little bit of a glare off of this stuff. I'll see if I can turn on an angle a little bit. Let's see. Let me try it without the... Will that work without that backing? I don't think it'll work as well. It's hard to, unless I turn it sideways a little bit, it's hard to see the straight stitching on this material. See if I can turn it a little bit so you can see the stitch definition on that straight stitching. It's really quite lovely. There we go. Kind of a down shot on it. You can see that the edge of that straight stitching just a little bit more, especially if I block the glare. There, especially on the end there, you can kind of get a little glimpse of it. Some really good looking stitching, but a really difficult material with the lighting to focus in on that stitching, but you can certainly see it very clearly in person. You can see it very clearly in person. I'm going to set that box down and see if we can get it like this, maybe. Yeah, it's going to be really tough. It'll be really tough. All right, let me turn it around. We'll look at the lock stitching as well. Very tricky stuff to show. I'll use that box one more time. This is our lock stitching. Try to go really slow if the camera will focus. But the quality of zigzagging and the blind hem stitch in the middle there is really a testimony to how well this stylus stitches. It does quite a brilliant job of stitching. So you would turn it like this as well. I don't know if maybe turning it on a certain angle will give us a better visibility of that stitching or not. It's so hard to see that straight stitch right now. It's a little bit of a challenge, isn't it? Until we turn it to the side, then all of a sudden it kind of pops out a little bit, doesn't it? It's tougher than it looks. The sew off is easy, trying to get you to be able to see it on this material that has so much sheen and glitter and glamour and everything else. It's really a bit of a challenge, isn't it? All right, I'm going to give up on that. I'll just tell you it looks really good. And maybe on your screen you can see it with a little bit more clarity than I can. Yeah, I've given it to you as best as I can. I've given it to you as best as I can. It's hard to, when a camera is trying to focus on a material like this, it can be a little bit of a challenge for the camera to know where to focus. I mean, this stuff here, especially, does it focus on my finger, which is behind all of this material, or does it focus on the material itself? It's just kind of a challenge. You can actually see my hand through the material, can't you? You can actually see it through the material. And there all of a sudden with my hand behind it, isn't that crazy? with my hand behind it, all of a sudden you can see the stitching. That's just goofy as can be, isn't it? How lighting works, right? So maybe the secret is not a box. Maybe the secret is to put my hand behind it, huh? See, if I put it too close, then it doesn't come as clear. Put it right about there. Well, any rate, lighting is a science, isn't it? Lighting is a science. Beautiful sew-off by Becca's stylist from Canada, the model 457 on this tricky 100% nylon material. All right, let me shift now to denim. Let me shift over to denim now. We're going to give denim a go, and we'll probably try to do multiple layers of this. I've got 2 layers. I've got 4 layers. 2 layers, 4 layers, and 6 layers. I've done as much as 8 layers before on denim. I don't know if this is going to be a little bit too far to push, considering our setup, but we'll give it a try. So I've got 6 layers of heavy grade denim. I'm going to try to lay down a zigzag. I'll assess our tension. If our tension looks like it's holding well, then we'll move on to a blind hem on this as well. Doing a straight stitch on 6 layers of denim is easy peasy. The other thing I'm going to do as well, remember when we go thicker like this, we've got to adjust that pressure foot pressure, right? And that's this right up here. The thicker the material, the heavier this needs to be, the higher the number needs to be. Right now we're at 4.5, so I'm going to bump it up and go up to 5.5. I think that'll be enough. You know what? I might actually go a little bit higher. See if I can take my hand off there. We'll actually go up to 6.5. And again, the pressure foot pressure is going to push down on the material more heavily. And when you're dealing with thicker material like this denim, you want more pressure. So it pushes the pressure foot against the material that pushes it then into the feed dogs. And when you get that feed dog factor, it'll move this material more evenly, right? It'll move this material more evenly. So let me try to get us over to a zigzag now. We're not going to go to the max. We're going to go right around to 4 and 8 again. I like that balance factor. And then we'll look at and see how we maintain tension. Tension, again, is the factor of this unit pulling up to define the stitching on the bottom, and the unit in here pulling down to define the stitching that's on top of the material. It's a tug of war constantly. This is pulling up. This is pulling down. This is defining the lock stitch on the bottom. This inside of here is pulling down to define the top stitch here on the material, right? Tug of war constantly back and forth. And the goal is to get them to be friends, so that that knot is as well centered in the material as possible, giving you a nice balance, right? All right, let's see how we do. I know that the 0.95 amp motor is going to have more than enough power, but we'll see if our setup is conducive to 6 layers of heavy grade denim. All right, here we go. So the only thing I did not too well at is I didn't do such a great job in keeping the material even, did I? I didn't do such a great job of keeping the material even. It kind of slid out of position a little bit. And I do have some clips that I could have used, but I didn't pull them out. But talk about some beautiful stitching. That's our zigzag right there going across these 6 layers of denim. And we'll take a closer look at it. Really, really a lovely, lovely stitch. And also a beautiful lock stitch on the bottom as well. I took a little peek. At that lock stitch, and it's quite nice. So we'll take a look at that. And I think we'll just do a zigzag on this denim, and that way I'll leave a little bit of extra room where Becca can maybe lay down a blind hem stitch on it or some straight stitching or whatever, just to have fun as she's getting better acquainted with the machine. But when you're talking about 6 layers of heavy grade denim, that's what it looks like. And if you think that that's a light sew off, well, wow. I think that's a heavy sew off. And Becca's machine did a spectacular job. We'll take a look at that right now, and you can look at that stitch quality. All right, let's see. I'm going to pull it back like this a little bit, see if that helps. Helps our camera to have focus. So we'll kind of go across now. But some beautiful, beautiful stitching. There's our zigzagging right there. And again, our settings, if you want to duplicate it, our settings on this stitch width was right around 4. And our stitch length was, I'm going to look over my shoulder. Our stitch length was right around 8 stitches per inch. So we didn't make it nearly as long as we could have, but I did that so that we can maintain the peak appearance of the zigzag. I like it to be proportionate so that it doesn't look oblonged or loses its definition. You know what I mean? Like to have that look to it. Let's look at it like this as well. Some beautiful zigzagging again through 6 layers of heavy grade denim. That is definitely in the realm of a heavy duty sew off. And the clarity of stitching, the spacing, the formation is exactly as we want to see it. Very, very nice. So that's our zigzag, the top stitch through all of that denim. Now we're going to turn over and look at that lock stitch, which you could feel the density of this denim. This is like the heavy, thick of thick here. Oh, I've got that kind of upside down, don't I? Let's go like that. All right, going to go across now. Trying to get the right hand position on this is a little bit of a challenge. So that's our lock stitching. Look at the front because I'm not getting it lined up the way I want it to be lined up. Not getting it level either. And now the camera's saying, I don't like the way you're holding that material, so I'm going to go on a focus. So let's go like this now. See if the camera likes this angle maybe just a little bit better. The camera likes that a little bit better. There's our little tuft there. So a beautiful zigzag through a lot of denim. And again, we're not using a denim needle. A denim needle might give us a little bit of an edge, although a quilting needle seems to be doing quite a nice job of maintaining that stitch quality through this much denim. I don't know too many people that are regularly, unless you get to the edge seams or something like that, I didn't know too many people regularly that are going to be sewing through this much denim. But it's great to know that Becca's Canadian-made Stylist model 457 with its 0.95 amp motor, it's able to go through this just like a hot knife through butter very, very easily. So lock stitching, top stitching through a lot of denim, just a bang on job, really quite nice, quite nice. All right, let me throw it to the side and we will move to our next sew off. I don't have much else to show you. We've been going about, 4 hours? 4 hours. We've been going about 2 hours and 43 minutes. And I'm going to try to wrap this up pretty soon. I don't have to meet John and his family for about 2 more hours. So maybe we'll, he was concerned that the live stream might go later. And so we agreed to meet a little bit later, but we may end up meeting a little bit earlier just because of the fact that I think we'll be done with this live stream in the next 10 to 15 minutes, hopefully. So I'm going to show you what we have left, and then you can tell me what you'd like to see. Oh, actually, I still have this to do, don't I? I still have this. Someone who requested upholstery material. All right, let me rewind a little bit. We'll do upholstery material first, and then I'll ask everybody what they'd like to see next. And because of the busyness of this pattern, hopefully you can hear me okay. Because of the busyness of the pattern, I think we'll turn it over and we'll sew with this side displaying the stitching, right? That probably makes a little bit more sense. So I'm going to put it down here, and I think maybe we'll do 3 layers of this. Should we try 3 layers? Is that too much? 2 layers, and then 3 layers of this upholstery type material. That's not a light sew off. We're almost back to the equivalent of 6 layers of denim, aren't we? That's pretty doggone thick, but I think that Becca's machine can handle this. I really do. I'm very confident that we should be able to get this done. The only thing is, how will we do as far as maintaining stitch balance with tension? That'll be the factor, won't it? Now, let me slide this into position. Hopefully I do a better job of keeping those edges together. Maybe I should grab some of my little clips, huh? Grab some of my little clips and clip them together temporarily. All right, this is probably not going to help a whole lot, but I'm going to give it a try. That way I can at least try to stay a little bit more even as far as the layers go. And I'll have to do this nice and slow, and I'll kind of remove these as we get down just so I don't run them over. All right, so we've got, I'm trying to remember what we had last. Was it a zigzag? I think we have our zigzag set up right now. I'll do a zigzag first, and then after the zigzag, we'll maybe lay down a blind hem next to it, or we could even lay down a straight stitch. But let's give this a go. 3 layers of commercial style upholstery material. And I would guess that from a thickness standpoint, we're almost close to 5 millimeters. Probably closer to 3 to 4 millimeters, but in certain parts, it's a little bit bulkier. All right, let's slide this down a little bit further. All right, let's give this a go. Here we go, zigzag on this commercial upholstery style material. Yeah, very impressive. Some excellent balance. Let's pull that a little bit, and I'll give you an initial glimpse of it. This is a commercial style upholstery material. You would use it to cover couches, chairs, davenports, anything that's going to have a lot of traffic involved with it. A lot of traffic involved, and some beautiful stitch definition there. That is a very, very good looking zigzag. Oh, this is Shirley. Is this Shirley? Shirley wanted to see the upholstery material. I apologize. I forgot who asked for it. It's been a while ago. But some really, really lovely zigzag on these 3 layers of commercial style upholstery material. You look at it from the side, different edges. When you turn it over and look at the lock stitching, I haven't even cut the threads yet. Look at the lock stitching now on the back. Also some beautiful, beautiful stitch definition. Really quite lovely. And again, we're getting a quilting needle that's probably getting a little bit tired at this point after we've run it through the paces with leather and everything else. But really quite lovely. We'll take a closer look at it as soon as I cut these threads. So I appreciate it if it was Shirley. Thank you to Shirley for suggesting this particular sew off. And we can certainly try a blind hem on it as well if someone wants to nudge me that direction. Whoops. Almost knocked the camera over there. You kind of did knock it over, didn't I? All right, this should be our top stitching. I had to check my orientation there. This should be our top stitching right here. We'll look at that first. Our top stitching, if you look at it, it's a lovely, lovely, lovely zigzag. But if you look at it with a lot of scrutiny, the bridging points could be a little bit stronger. And I always look at stitching very critically because I know we can always make it better. So if you look at the bridge points on this zigzagging, you can see that it's quite nice, but we could even tighten up those bridge points that go towards the peak of the zigzag even a little bit more. And that means that we would have to back off the upper tension just slightly, right? We have to back off the upper tension so that it can pull down a little bit harder and clarify those bridging points even more. Let's go across and look at them all the way. All in all, quite good, but a couple of them have a little bit of a sag, just a subtle little sag to it. And that's a product of that bobbin case being overpowered by that upper tension just a wee bit. Just a wee bit. Let's look at it like this as well. Again, very, very nice stitching, but I always say we can make things better, don't you? Don't you think we can always make things better? So a really, really good looking zigzag, quite nice, very, very nice. But if we were to make it even sharper, all we would do is just back off that upper tension just a little bit, and it would sharpen up this zigzag top stitching even more, even more. Constant and never-ending improvement, right? Constant and never-ending improvement. And again, I agree with Shirley. This is commercial grade. This is commercial grade upholstery material. Commercial grade upholstery material is going to have a piercing threshold that is crazy because of its woven nature. It's going to be built to stand up against the toughest of conditions and not fail. It's going to be built to stand up against the toughest conditions and not fail, not give up. And Becca's machine just went through it like, what's the big deal? What's the big deal? Not only that, it maintained stitch quality and stitch clarification that is brag-worthy. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous zigzag. Gorgeous zigzag all the way across through these 3 layers of commercial upholstery material. Look at it there. Wow. Wow. That's thick. That is some thick, thick material that we just went through. If we turn it around, lock stitching. Lock stitching is always tougher because the needle has to sweep down through these 3 thick layers of commercial upholstery material and pull that thread back up. So how did we do here? Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Let me straighten it out. Absolutely beautiful, beautiful stitch quality. And you can see here where those joining points that are unsupported, that go to the peak of the zigzag, you can see these have a little bit better clarity. They're a little straighter, right? They're a little straighter, a little bit more definition. And that's because that upper tension was sweeping down and pulling it nice and tight. So 3 layers of commercial upholstery material. Absolutely amazing how Becca's machine just managed that. So far during this live stream, we went to the super light side and did satin with a little bit of stiffener. We did 2 layers of cotton with quilt batting. We did leather. We did this 100% nylon, the yellow stuff. We did this other type, well, we did this upholstery material just now, 3 layers of that, and then we did 6 layers of denim as well. So a fairly decent sew-off sandwich. Plus, off camera, I've done additional sewing on this as well. So this quilting needle by Schmetz really is, I think, standing up and doing a brilliant job of showing that quilting and quilting needles can be really, really tough. Just as I think it was Paula was reminding us that they're super strong and super sharp needles. Again, I don't think they're quite in the class of a denim needle, but pretty doggone close. So already Becca's model 457 out of Canada from 1961 has done an absolute spectacular job. And again, I'm really impressed with how this quilting needle is holding up. So we've got another type of upholstery material. All I have is 2 layers of that cut. I've got this fleece material that's actually not fleece, but it's 100% polyester. I've got this vinyl material, 2 layers of that. I've got this canvas material, and then I've got this outdoor material as well. And we can always fall back, if we're really crazy, we can fall back to this Amazon Prime packing parchment paper and also try laying down some stitching on this stuff as well to see how the machine handles that. So this is what we have left. All of this as potential sew-offs, and you can pick the material, pick the stitch, and we'll give it a try. And then we'll just have to decide with some of these, how many layers are we going to try to go through with a very, very tiring size 90-14 quilting needle. Again, this is the needle that we're using in Becca's machine right now. I just wanted to give it a try today and see how it handles the various sew-offs that we do. And all in all, it's done an amazing job. So if you've never tried these quilting needles by Schmetz before, they're available at most retailers. They're available at Joann's, and I would strongly recommend picking up a pack and giving them a go. And this is a variety pack. You can see it's size 75 and size 90. So you get a good taste of the capabilities of a quilting needle on the type of material you want to try it on. All right, so vinyl, please. We're going to try vinyl now. Let's give this vinyl a try. And vinyl is a material I always get a little bit of a nervous pit in my stomach when I'm going to sew vinyl because of its composition and its material type. It is prone to create skip stitching, especially with a needle that's starting to get tired. So we're going to try these 2 layers of vinyl. Susie wanted to kind of check it out. We're going to try to give that a go. And yeah, we'll try to lay down probably a zigzag because of the skip factor that vinyl will create, especially on a tiring needle like this quilting needle. We might make that zigzag a little bit more narrow, a little bit shorter, kind of tighten it up a little bit, and decrease the bridge points a little bit to see if we can maintain stitch integrity. And then we'll lay down a blind hem on here as well. See if we can pull off both on this vinyl material and see if we can maintain stitch quality also. And I'm going to do my best to keep the material straight without using those little clips. I'll probably regret it, but oh well. And I'm going to leave the presser foot pressure where it's at right now because this tends to be a little bit of a slippery material. We'll see if we can go down this and lay down the zigzag. We'll go down and lay down the blind hem, and then we'll take a look at those stitches a little bit closer, okay? Let's see. What did I do last? Y'all remember what I did last? Was it a zigzag? Let me double check. Yep. So again, the change between a zigzag and a blind hem, and I'm just saying this for Becca's benefit and others that might have joined us a little bit late, before you change the cam setting on here, make sure you take your stitch width down to 0, because what that's going to do is it's going to pull that little reader finger back so that it's not pressed as you're trying to force this to move. If you put it down to 0, this is going to move very, very nicely without any issue, okay? Go back and forth. So I got it set on zigzag right now. give you a straight shot of that as well so you can kind of see that. And again, if you want to go from zigzag to blind hem, take this down to 0. Again, let's say you just did it. You were up here. Take it down to 0. And then you can rotate this with your thumb to the blind hem setting to the right. And then just decide what you want for your stitch length, etc. And get her done. Okay? All right. I'm going to move this up to about 3. Move this to maybe a little bit closer to 8 or 9. All right, so let's try this zigzag, and then we'll lay down a blind hem stitch right after it through 2 layers of this vinyl material. Now I'm going to get a real quick drink of soda as well to wet the whistle. Yeah, it does, Bill. That's a good question. I would say that a walking foot or even a roller foot might actually work better, because if you're using a walking foot, it might tend to group up or bunch the vinyl, because the walking foot is going to kind of pull. You can't see what I'm doing. The walking foot is going to kind of pull this, and it might have a tendency to kind of pucker up or cause that vinyl to feed unevenly, depending on the style of the walking foot. So I would almost be more inclined, if you're sewing a lot of vinyl, look at getting a roller foot. And roller feet are readily available on eBay and other places like that. And whenever you get a new presser foot for any of your sewing machines, when you put it on there, make sure that it's fitting that presser foot bar correctly. It should be really snug on there. There shouldn't be any rotation or pivot on it. It should be anchored to that presser foot real well. And for the initial stitch try for that new presser foot, always, always, always do it by hand on the balance wheel. Turn that balance wheel slowly to check for clearance so that you don't damage your machine by hitting the gas, having especially a more sturdy needle send a shock wave through your machine. So check the fit on the presser foot bar. Make sure it's appropriate to the presser foot bar. Make sure also that that clearance factor, especially as you're going into stitches with needle movement, check to make sure that opening on that presser foot attachment that you're putting on is going to be able to accommodate your widest stitching, depending on the pattern. Okay, we just want to do things right and be a little bit cautious, right? So I'm taking my take-up arm to the highest position. You always want to try to launch that way whenever possible with a downstroke like that. And now we're going to try to lay down some zigzag stitching, a little bit more compact on these 2 layers of vinyl material. All right, here we go. Check that. Yep, that looks good. I got to show you this foot controller. This foot controller is a clam style foot controller. It's a real nice design. It's really quite nice. But for me, with my big size 12 shoes, I've got size 12 shoes on depending on the footwear. I sometimes wear a size 13. So for a bigger foot like mine, it's a little bit harder for me to regulate constant speed using a foot controller like this. The ones that the metal ones, like the Mercury style ones that I can push down and get the center of the ball of my foot on there more easily, I'm able to regulate speed a little bit better. Becca probably has much smaller feet than me. I would guess that Becca is not a size 12 or a size 13 foot young lady, or whatever, however women's sizes work. I have no idea. But with this style of foot controller, for me at least, it's a little bit harder to regulate speed. And that's why you'll hear me kind of fluctuate up and down a little bit. It's a little bit trickier for me, but that's because I've got circus style feet and not smaller, reasonably sized feet. So, any rate, I'm offering excuses, aren't I? All right. And again, just a tip to Becca and others that have this style machine. When you're pulling thread on this machine, because of the style of upper tension and the threading, just rock that balance wheel a little bit and pull the thread at the same time, kind of like this, and it will advance that thread very, very nicely without stressing that take-up spring, okay? Just rock the balance wheel. And if you need music to rock the balance wheel, crank some music on and rock the balance wheel. Right? And you notice now that I've been handling this thread more. Remember I was sticking to my hand before? And then I did a little bit of a spritz using that essential oil bottle. If you're not part of the live stream, then I spritzed a little bit of this water very carefully on the spool of thread. And, don't saturate it. This gives such a fine mist. It just leaves a tiny little touch of water on the thread. And now my thread, with all the static charge in this room, the thread is behaving very, very nicely, which means it's also sewing better as well. It's not creating a static issue, a static feed issue coming out of the bobbin or across through the threading points. So if you don't have one of these essential oil bottles, and you really, 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 really would like one, and I don't have an unlimited number that I can offer, but I'm going to give away 2 of these bottles. And if you contact me afterwards, if you contact me after the live stream, I will mail one of these to you for free. And you can have water in it. You can have kerosene in it. You can have sewing machine oil in it. You can have practically anything you want to have in it. And when you spray it, it comes out in the most delicate, gentle mist that you can imagine. Just amazing. So I'm going to give 2 of these away. And what you need to do to win them or to receive them is you need to send a text message to me right now. The first 2 people will receive 2 of these. Will receive one of these. I've got 2 to give away. What I wanted to say. I've got 2 of these essential oil bottles to give away. They're wonderful. I love them. Susie gave me a bunch of them. And she even ordered a couple of extras for me as well because she's a representative for their product. So if someone wants to receive one of these really cool essential oil spritz bottles, you can use it with water, oil, pretty much anything you want. Then text me now and say, Scott, I would love one of those bottles. Give me your address, give me your name, and I will mail one of these off to you this coming week, and then you can put it into use with your sewing machines. It's wonderful if you use it with like a kerosene sewing machine mix, because then when you get to the bottom of the machine or the faceplate area, once you've done a thorough cleaning, you can spritz it with one of these real fine mists, and that kerosene or that oil will get into all the little nooks and crannies, all the moving parts of that faceplate assembly that you would not be able to get as well with a dropper type bottle. So if you'd like one of these really cool spritzers, just reach out. Right now, the first 2 people to do it will get one of these bottles. And I want to thank Susie for offering them to me to give away. I'm not going to give all of them away, but once in a while I'll offer them. And like Susie typed in the live chat, my text number and my phone number, 920-454-0393. So I think I may have gotten a text already. I'll look at it in a little bit. But again, I just love the way, I'll point this away from the machine and everything. I love the mist factor on these. See if I can demonstrate it. It just, I mean, I wish you could feel it. It's just like, you're out in Washington State and it's like a light little mist type rain with the finest little droplets sending that oil or water anywhere you want it to go. So yeah, really cool. I lost total track of what we were doing. All right. And I didn't spray the camera this time. Yay. I didn't spray the camera this time. So, all right. So this is vinyl. I totally lost track of whether we actually looked at this close yet. Let's see here. We're going to look at this again. I don't think we looked at this yet. I just got totally distracted, which happens to me regularly. So here is our zigzagging on this vinyl material. Maybe I can do it like this first. Our zigzagging on this vinyl material. I think it's almost focusing. It's thinking about focusing. Really close to wanting to focus. This camera is saying, you sprayed me with water and I didn't appreciate it. Let me try going like this. Part of it is that sheen on here, isn't it? It's kind of shining a little bit. It's having a lot of trouble, but I think it finally gave up and it said, okay, I'll focus on it now. So this is our vinyl material now. I'm going to kind of go down as best as I can. Folks, vinyl is notorious for skip stitching. I've said that multiple times, but any of you that have sewn vinyl, you know that to be true. And look at Becca's machine, this model 457 out of Canada. Look at how it did a brilliant job of maintaining stitch quality on these 2 layers of vinyl. Absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous stitching. Beautiful, beautiful stitching on this zigzagging. And again, I changed the settings on this a little bit to make it a little bit more narrow. I didn't get the presentation of the stitch exactly like I wanted it. It's a little bit flat on top. I wanted even a more sharp peak. I love the sharp peak on the zigzags, and it's okay, but I could have gotten it even a little bit sharper on that peak on there. But some really, really nice stitching. Also, I'm seeing a couple of the joining points going towards the peak. Could maybe use just a little bit more boost of tension, so we would back off that upper tension if we were going to be sewing a ton of vinyl using a quilting needle. Yeah, we're using a quilting needle. Honest to Pete. Yepper. And 2 layers of it too. You can see that that vinyl material. It's not a thin material at all. Not even close. Now our lock stitch, we'll turn this over and look at our lock stitching, see how we did on that. Kind of go over here and start on this end. Some really, really good lock stitching as well. Yeah. And I don't know what the Schmetz people would say to us about using a quilting needle to sew vinyl. Probably about the same thing they would say about me sewing leather with a quilting needle. But you know what? You got to try it, right? You got to try it, and that way you can say you did it. A one and done. So beautiful lock stitching as well. We'll just look at it once vertically like this real quick. And yeah. Now the camera's saying, I'm off duty again. All right, I'm going to come out like this because the camera's acting a little weird. So beautiful lock stitching, beautiful top stitching as well through these 2 layers of vinyl. Okay, now I'm going to pick the next one because I never get to pick anything. I want to pick something right now. So I'm going to pick the fake fleece material that's made out of 100% polyester. We're going to see if we can lay down a zigzag on that, a blind hem on that, and then we'll see what other materials we can get done in the little bit of time we have left, okay? Also, a little bit more music, I think, to kind of liven us up. I know we've been running at this for a while, so looks like I also have a text message. Let's see what this text message is. Oh, okay. Candido and Rachel are going to get a bottle. And Candido and Rachel are the only ones that sent a text asking for one of those really cool essential oil spritz bottles. So I'm only going to give one away today. And I'll probably mail it with the motor back to Candido and Rachel as soon as I get that motor ready. And I might have a second motor as well if I'm able to resolve that one. So only one of the essential oil bottles being given away today to Candido and Rachel out in the great state of New York. So thank you to Candido and Rachel for sending that note. And I may end up giving, even though, because, Candido sent the text, but it's kind of like Rachel sent the text as well, his beloved. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to decide to send them 2 bottles. That way, Candido and Rachel can have harmony and they don't have to fight over, hey, no, I wanted water in there, not oil. That way they can put water in one and they can put oil in the other, and they can use it on their machines and also reduce the static factor in their space. And what I did is I just added a little label to it like this to remind myself which is which, so that I don't spray something with water that I meant to put oil on, or vice versa. So there you go. So congratulations to Candido and Rachel in getting 2 bottles that will go back with their white rotary motor that I've been working on, and we'll be finishing hopefully quite soon. All right. So a little bit of music, and then we will jump back into this and finish this up. Oh, very nice. Very, very nice. Ha ha! That is a gorgeous, gorgeous stitch. I might have to use my little brown thing here to allow the camera to focus on it better. That may work. Let's see if that works. Let's see here. Let me get this out a little bit further. Let's see. There we go. Yay. Yay, 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 yay. Ha-ha! So this is made to look like fleece material, right? It's made to look like fleece. It looks like fleece. It feels like fleece, but it's 100% polyester. And I'll tell you one thing, Becca's machine, this is not easy material to sew, 2 layers of this stuff. And Becca's machine just like, what? What? Yeah. Amazing, amazing stitching. Absolutely spectacular. Very, very nice zigzagging. Very, very nice zigzagging. Let's turn it over and look at the lock stitch. get this level. Whenever I'm trying to level something in the camera, you always have to think kind of backwards. You know what I mean? You have to think backwards. Here's our lock stitching through these 2 layers of this 100% polyester made to look like fleece material. And every aspect of the stitching is absolutely spot on. So can you sew fleece material? Can you sew fleece material with a quilting needle and Coats and Clark dual duty XP thread? Yeah, you can. You bet you can. And you're going to get some absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous stitching. Absolutely spectacular stitching. See if I can show it to you like this as well. Very, 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 very nice. So if you're going to sew a bunch of fleece material, consider picking up some of these Schmetz quilting needles. They do a brilliant job on this type of material where it's really, really poofy and fluffy, and you're dealing with a thickness that is surprising when you're looking at some of this fleece material from the side. You see that? It's surprisingly thick and poofy, and there's a lot of opportunity for stitch distortion and even skip stitching when you're dealing with materials like this. So some really, really beautiful stitching on this fleece style material with the zigzag. All right, what do I have left? Then we're going to wrap this up. I've got, what do I have? I've got canvas. I've got outdoor. I think I'm going to do some of this outdoor material. We get some of this outdoor material, and we go through a couple layers of that. Let's see. I've got way too much outdoor material here. Let me cut this down a little bit. And I think on this outdoor material, I think we'll go up to 4 layers on it, because I do want to show the stitching, but I also want to show that the machine with a 0.95 amp motor is able to go through this much outdoor material. I think you can see that in the shot and get the job done very, very nicely. And this almost looks like the same type of material you would use with those towing straps, doesn't it? You look at that, it almost looks like a towing strap type material. So that's going to tell you that this stuff is super duper tough. But I think Becca's machine is probably just a little bit tougher. We're going to give it a try and see how Becca's machine does with a sew off like this. We're going to go through 4 layers of it. I think I've got 4 layers. And we'll lay down that zigzag first. And then we'll maybe we'll lay down a blind hem stitch next to it, huh? We'll see. Get that take up arm up. And we'll give this a try. All right. Give this machine a listen and watch it get the job done. Incredible power. There go those size 12 shoes. Size 12 shoes trying to keep the speed down. It's like, no, we're not going to do that today. All right. Rotate that. Oh, you couldn't even see that. I had the camera wrong. Sorry about that. You're like, hey, we can't see anything, Scott. We can't see it. Oh, hey, Teresa. Have fun with Rutger and Tim at the dog park. That sounds like a wonderful trip to take. I'm not sure what the weather's like over in Thorpe, Wisconsin area today, but I bet you it's a beautiful day out there. I'll have to get out there and enjoy it shortly. Yeah, wow. Wow. Take a look at these stitches. This is on that outdoor material. Almost looks like towing strap material like you would tow a car with. And amazing the strength again of Becca's machine. Camera eventually will focus, maybe, maybe not. There we go. So we'll go across and look at these this zigzagging on this outdoor material. We've got 4 layers of it. Some really, really lovely, lovely stitching. Beautiful stitching. We'll look at it vertically as well. Kind of like this. We'll take a look at it this way. Yeah, I should almost call this towing strap material because that's what it feels like. It almost feels like a Kevlar type blend or something. But we're going to turn it over now. We'll look at that lock stitching. Kind of turn it like this so we can see it more readily. Some beautiful lock stitching as well. And you can see on this outdoor material, we did 4 layers of it. Beautiful peaks and joining points on that zigzag really gives the presentation of that stitch an impressive beauty. Really gives it a really quite an impressive beauty. We'll look at it like this as well. Really, really nice stitching. Really quite lovely. So lock stitching and top stitching on these 4 layers of outdoor material. You can kind of look at the thickness of it when you look at it like that. Yeah, very impressive. A nice, really quite a nice Canadian machine. And no, don't if you happen to at a future live stream, if you happen to win one of these really cool essential oil bottles, don't fill it with maple syrup thinking, hey, it's a Canadian machine. It's going to like maple syrup. No, syrup might provide a little bit of lubrication for your machine, but it's also going to attract bees and get sticky and hardened. And yeah, no maple syrup in here, please. Don't do it. Don't do it. All right. I think I'm just about ready to wrap it up. I'm really, really close. I'll do one more sew off. And I didn't test this off camera, but I've got 14 layers of Amazon Prime packing parchment paper. I'll show you from a start by unrolling it. So we've got 2 layers that we're starting with, 4 layers, 6 layers, 8 layers, 10 layers, 12 layers, and finally 14 layers of Amazon Prime packing parchment paper. If you've never tried to sew paper before, if you've never sewn paper, it's a real treat because you all of a sudden realize how crazy you are. How crazy you are to be sewing through 14 layers of parchment paper. It's absolutely nuts, but it's also fun. And ultimately, it does a brilliant job of highlighting the beauty of the stitch. It truly does. James, take care, buddy. Good to have you here. All right, our last sew off, maybe our last sew off. Maybe I'll do something else with music playing at the end. You never know. But I'm going to try my best to get through 14 layers of this Amazon Prime packing parchment paper. Our presser foot pressure is way up there right now, and I'm going to leave it there. And I'm going to, our tension holds out to get through all of this paper. It's not going to be easy at all, but we'll give it a go, right? We'll give it a go. Matter of fact, I feel inspired for a little bit of ragtime maybe when we do this. Or maybe I'll put something other than ragtime on, maybe some jazz, or let me see what else I have. I could put on Christmas music. That would be a hoot. How about some dance music? Let's put on some dance music. So if you've been sitting this whole live stream, 3 hours and 27 minutes, get off your bottom and stretch your legs to a little bit of dance music, okay? All right, watch for this quilting needle. Watch for this quilting needle to hit these 14 layers of paper, and it might just plain stop. If it does, I'll give it a little bit of a hand start. Wow. Wow. I can't help but dance. I'm sorry. Absolutely stunning, gorgeous, zigzagging through. Just trying to shut the music off. Absolutely gorgeous, drop dead gorgeous, zigzagging through 14 layers of Amazon Prime packing parchment paper. And you've seen other machines try to do this. And on a couple of them, if you remember, I had to hand start the machine, not on Becca's machine. On Becca's machine, it just pulled up its sleeves and said, let's get her done. So there's our top stitching. There's our lock stitching as well, which is absolutely gorgeous. We'll go ahead and I'll go ahead and clip these threads, and we'll take a little bit closer look at that in just a few seconds. All right, I'm going to pause that fun music real quick again, and we'll take a close look at these this zigzagging through the 14 layers of Amazon Prime packing parchment paper. Folks, symmetrically, these are some of the most gorgeous zigzag stitches that I've ever seen. Look at the stitch definition and the clarity of the stitch through all of this paper. Unbelievable. And this is our top stitching right now. I'll be excited to see how our lock stitching did as well. What a great way to finish up. What a beautiful way to finish up a live stream of showcasing this amazing 1961 Canadian Stylist model 457. Let's look at it like that as well. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Absolutely spectacular. So that's our zigzag top stitching right there through 14 layers of Amazon Prime packing parchment paper. Get the camera back again. There it is. Unbelievable. Absolutely spectacular. Again, look at what we sewed through there. You can really see it on that end. Look at the thickness of that. Now we're going to look at the lock stitching. And the lock stitching is fun to look at when I sew this paper, because you'll see the needle come through there and almost create like a burst on the paper as it cuts through that dense packing parchment paper and just creates like almost like a bullet hole. So I'm going to go like this and show you the lock stitching now. And all I can say is amazing. Amazing. Becca is going to have so much fun with this machine that her mom and dad thoughtfully prepared for her, John and Paula. John and Paula wanted to give their daughter something really special, and this Canadian made stylus is the perfect gift. I don't know what the occasion is, birthday or some other occasion, but is she going to be tickled pink? And she'll get all of these original sew-offs as well. And if she didn't have a chance to join the live stream, she'll have a chance to see her machine going through crazy paper like this, 14 layers, and absolutely blowing it out of the water. Absolutely blowing it out of the water. Beautiful top stitching, lock stitching, and just spectacular, spectacular power. I mean, look at the thickness. This is what 14 layers of paper looks like right there. That's a heavy sew off, folks. Paper is really tough to get through, especially when you get up to a level of 14 layers. And Becca's 1961 Stylist model 457 just said, like, what's a big deal? Why are you getting all dramatic, Scott? Why are you getting all dramatic? So let me show you what we did on this live stream real quick. Let me show you all of this, plus some off-camera sewing as well on this Schmetz quilting needle on this Stylist from 1961. 14 layers of Amazon packing parchment paper. You just saw me do that right now. This outdoor material, I think we did what? 4 layers of that, I believe. 4 layers, something like that. We did this fleece material that's 100% polyester. We did vinyl. We did 6 layers of heavy grade denim. We did 3 layers of this commercial upholstery material. We went through these 3 layers of this incredibly, almost like rice paper, 100% nylon, this yellow stuff that's really, really a lot of fun to sew. We went through leather using this quilting needle, about 3 to 4 ounces of genuine cowhide, doing a zigzag and also doing a blind hem stitch. Look at the stitching on that. It just hardly doesn't get any better than that. Seriously. And then we went through a variety of different sew-offs on 100% cotton with quilt batting. And then finally, we also did this very, very delicate satin material and laid down stitching on that. That's absolutely breathtaking and spectacular. And are you kidding me? Are you out of your mind? Yes. So all of this sew-off sandwich, or as I sometimes refer to it, this sew-off Olympics. We just did the Olympics on Becca's 1961 Canadian-made Stylist model 457. And her machine just knocked it out of the park. So I want to thank everybody. Also, quick hello to the owner's family, John Matson. What an amazing, amazing machine that Becca is going to get from mom and dad shortly, in about an hour. In about an hour, I'm going to meet John, and we might even meet a little bit earlier, depending on their availability. And then Becca will be able to hold all of these sew-offs in her own hand and go, holy mackerel, my machine can do that? Seriously? And her mom and dad, John's been in the live stream, he's going to go, you betcha, honey, and more. It can do more. Scott only showed the tip of the iceberg, only the tip of the iceberg of what your Canadian-made 1961 Stylist can do, Becca. So mom and dad, great job, amazing gift to your daughter, Becca. Becca, congratulations. You're going to have a lot of fun with this spectacular Canadian-made 1961, long before you were born, I have no doubt. 1961 Stylist model 457. Yeah, all of this. This is the real deal, folks. I say it all the time. You'll have other people on live streams on YouTube do 1 or 2 sew-offs, and they consider the deal done. When we present a machine and it's got to graduate from the workshop and head off to that new owner, Becca, and her mom and dad, John and Paula. man, oh man, we run that machine through the paces, don't we? We run that machine through the paces. Okay, so it's happy birthday. Thank you. Candido just said happy birthday. So happy birthday to Becca with this fabulous machine. And I'll put a brand new needle in, like I said, a brand new needle, and it'll be all ready to jump into it and have a lot of fun with Becca. So there you go. I'm going to set this here. I think I'm done sewing. I could do a little bit more, but we'll just leave it at that. Also did some rewiring. On Becca's machine as well. And just made sure everything is as it should be. Replaced the bobbin winding tire, the whole shebang. So this machine is ready for a birthday girl to have a lot of fun. All right, let me get it centered up there. Turn it a little bit more. Oh, I also replaced the feet on this as well. I don't think I told John that. I'll tilt it back a little bit. I've got about 150 progress shots to post, but I also put brand new rubber feet on here as well so that it's nice and stable for Becca as well. The other ones, as you'll see in the pictures I'll post on Facebook, the other ones, you know how they get when they get all dried out and they're basically falling apart? That's what we had. So brand new feet on this machine, base as well, so that this machine is ready to do some magic with Becca to celebrate her birthday. Yeah. All right, let me put all this up here. This is all we did in the live stream today. And we'll put on a little bit more fun music. I might even have a happy birthday song. Hold on a second. Let me check to see if I have a happy birthday song. And all of you in the audience, even though they won't be able to hear you, can sing happy birthday to Becca along with me. Let me see if I have a birthday song. I'm pretty sure I do. Where's my birthday? Aha! Yes, I do. So a little bit of birthday music. I think it's a jazz style, so kind of listen for the birthday theme. All right? Happy birthday, Becca. Happy birthday, dear Becca. Happy birthday to you. Yeah, come on, everybody, sing with us. It's Becca's birthday. For goodness sakes, join in. Matter of fact, if you want to call me right now and be on the live stream singing happy birthday to Becca, call me right now. I'll answer the phone. I really will. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Becca. Happy birthday to you. I think he's flying backwards. Go the other way. Go the other way. Aha! All right, a very happy birthday to Becca, and what a great idea again to Mom and Dad, John and Paula from the Twin Cities area. I'll be meeting John shortly to turn over this amazing 1961 Canadian-made Stylist Model 457. This might be the first time that I presented a machine like this, identical to it. So what a treat, huh? So take care, everybody. And one more rendition of Happy Birthday for Becca as I wrap up the live stream. Yep, one more. Can you say happy birthday too much? I don't think so. Nope, not at all. Come on, you guys, join in. You know the song. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Becca. Happy birthday to you. All right, I'm signing off now. Take care, everybody. God bless you. God bless you, Becca. Have fun with this amazing birthday gift from Mom and Dad. And we'll see you next time, everybody.